Hello, and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by two friends who love cinema. I'm Gus, and I'm joined by my co-host Alvaro. Tonight, you'll be joining us in the lobby, where we will be discussing Babylon, White Noise, and our favorite films of 2022. So go ahead, get comfortable, and throw on that Do Not Disturb sign as we wrap up a wonderful year of cinema. What's going on, all my movie lovers, and thank you for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on the latest episodes. Tonight, I'm joined by Alvaro.
What's up, guys?
And we're here to do something a little different. It's been about 4 or 5 months since the last time we've done this. It's time to wrap up 2022 and talk about our favorites. Alvaro, how was your movie-going experience in 2022?
Yeah, it was pretty intense, honestly. I almost watched enough movies for a movie a year. I was short kind of 20 on there at the end, but I had a lot of more open time at the beginning of the year. It was just really good to catch up on some classics that I hadn't really seen, honestly. But then also being able to go to the movie theater and catch a lot of the new releases, that was really fun to just, use up the movie card.
I realized a good way to pump those numbers up is to add short films onto.
That's true.
Yeah, onto the diary. And one day I watched 4 or 5 movies this year because I saw 3 of Martin Scorsese's like 5 to 10 minute short films that were on HBO and they were on Letterboxd. So I logged them. You know what I mean? I was there's some interesting things on Letterboxd that you wouldn't expect to be there sometimes. Not saying that short films are. I'm kind of alluding to something I'll be talking about later.
Right.
Which kind of opened up a new world for me. I was like, I didn't realize I could log these things, but getting a little ahead of myself there. So there was 2 films in particular that we wanted to discuss before we got into wrapping up the year. They've been causing a lot of talk on film Twitter and Letterboxd and causing a lot of discourse, which is something we've been eating up lately.
Yeah.
You love to see it at the end of the year, right? I mean, for an industry that's so reliant on drama, you rarely get it in a fun way like we have recently with like the likes of Avatar and Babylon and White Noise and The Whale, and just the discourse is back. That's a good sign that the old girl is still showing some life in her. Right?
Discourse, yeah, that's true.
That whenever there's discourse, that means that people are actually watching movies. So I've been quite happy these past few weeks, almost a couple of months now, just that people are discussing film, and even if it's in a good light or a negative light, it's just fun to see when, like, finally this is what I've been wanting the whole time. So do you want to start with Babylon or White Noise?
I think Babylon.
Okay. The latest film by Damien Chazelle, claim to fame would be Whiplash, La La Land. If you're listening to this, I'm sure you know who Damien Chazelle is, but just in case you are not aware of him. I think you like this film more than I do. That's a safe bet, right?
Yeah, I think so. This is since our list it's probably gonna get pretty long at the end here when we talk about our films. This is in my list here.
This is an honorable mention for me. I like it more that time has passed.
Yeah, Damien Chazelle. It's not a lot of times that a director really gets $80 million from a studio to make, I would say, something that might be highlighted as maybe too early in his career to do, in all honesty. This is just a really chaotic film. I think I kept thinking about the same. I think I brought it up last week. It's Perverse Jerry. This movie kind of really just tries to tap into that energy, and whether it works or not for people, I think that's it's been interesting with the crowd that we saw it in. They seem to enjoy it, but it's not a movie that made much money. But the more I thought about it, I think I did really enjoy it.
It's kind of a historical flop, honestly.
Yeah.
At the moment, maybe VOD will save it and they'll get 60 million back, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah, it seems it's weird. It seems like the community we've talked about, kind of a Letterboxd, kind of the community where I see more people, just regular people log in movies and have their say on it. It's pretty popular on there. So it doesn't seem like it necessarily is seen as a bad movie, but I think it's such a movie that seems its trailer is so vibe heavy that I don't necessarily know if it attracts the usual moviegoer. But
what is it asking you to go see?
Yeah,
That's how I feel when I watch the trailer.
Besides the names that are in front of you.
Yeah, right. I mean, name recognition alone: Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie. I don't know if either of them are on the right side of
People.
fandom right
Yeah.
now at the moment. I got to be honest. I feel like I've been seeing a lot of Margot Robbie hate recently.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's for many reasons, but some of the roles she's been taking on lately, I feel like are not as interesting as maybe earlier in her career. Especially going so heavy into IP, right? You got Harley Quinn. You have her doing films with controversial directors like David O. Russell. You also have like the Barbie movie coming out, which I mean I'm excited about. I feel like you are too, right?
Yeah.
But the I, Tanyas and the Wolf of Wall Streets, those are not coming along as frequently as I thought they would. It is more in line with the kind of the Amsterdams of the world.
Yeah.
So that small tidbit, along with I feel like Brad Pitt's movie star is not that it's fading, but that he's using it in the wrong way. I do kind of feel like with the bullet trains and the lost cities and the cameos and the Deadpool, he's kind of poking a little too much fun at his movie star status or how he's used now. It's kind of like a joke that he's even in something.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if he was necessarily gonna bring the right energy to the movie, even though I wasn't exactly sure what the energy was going to be. It did seem like it would be 100, right? But this is probably Brad Pitt's best role since Ad Astra. It's kind of, or maybe even Moneyball or something like that. It's kind of hard to, well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood as well, right?
Yeah.
It's just that Brad Pitt's, I don't know what it is about him. It's just, I feel like he's kind of in on the joke right now. And I don't know if that's working in his favor.
Yeah, I think the reason why I think I ended up liking this movie more the more I thought about it is the fact that I think this movie kind of comments on his career, kind of the same way that Top Gun does for Tom Cruise's career. I do think that it's. I agree with what you're saying, just because, but maybe. I guess, and this is kind of like in retrospect, that maybe before, though, it's just movies were a little different. So the action star that he was maybe held a little bit more of a gravitas. And so he was put in more. He did have always films that were like the bullet trains. But I do think that the ones that are taken very seriously are so much farther now. But I do think that I agree with what you're saying. Babylon seems to be very him in his very comfortable in his superstar stardom, but I think it's because it's a retrospective and the character in this movie is kind of somebody who is in the same position he's in now. So maybe it's very I guess, for lack of word, meta for him to play someone like this. So maybe that's why we get a really good
I think I'm just kind of tired of the Brad Pitt meta at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's like kind of like I kind of wish he would take a little more of a Tom Cruise or Leonardo DiCaprio approach of like, I'm a fucking movie star. Like I'm going to get I just don't feel like he's carrying himself in the same way as they are, which I would kind of wish that he would. Like it was cool to have your fun and be in these like jokey movies or whatever, but maybe time to take that step back. Give us another Ad Astra or something like that. And then I think another thing maybe working against this movie, but this is just like a movie lover thing. I don't think general audiences would feel this way at all. Most general audiences are going to be like, who's Damien Chazelle? The guy who made La La Land. Oh, okay, I know what you're talking about. Right? I don't think the average person is really clamoring to like, oh, I want to see the next Damien Chazelle picture, right? And then so I think what kind of worked against him is that he's very well known within the film internet world, right? And it's a little early for someone like him to be doing the calling his shot and going, I'm going to make the movie to end all movies. So maybe that kind of gives him a like he's already a leg down when he kind of approaches it that way, which this kind of is going back to what you were saying about the giving him the $80 million to make this movie and it kind of being early in his career to make a movie like this. I do think it's really ballsy that he took that chance. I just don't know if he succeeded, because I don't know if this is a good movie or a bad movie. I just know that it's so fucking long that it's the kind of movie where I actually feel like there's more good parts than bad parts.
Yeah.
So like the runtime almost makes it even out. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
like, well, it was so long that there was like always something good, but then there was like some bad parts just kind of sprinkled in. And like for like the chaotic energy and stuff like that, I don't know. Damien Chazelle, it's kind of dripless, kind of swagless to me. I don't really see him as the like, I don't buy it the same way I buy when Martin Scorsese or Paul Thomas Anderson makes something chaotic. Like I can kind of think about how Scorsese was in the 80s, or like these young Paul Thomas Anderson stories where I'm kind of like, yeah, I believe that they've been in this chaos. And for Damien Chazelle, it's kind of like a scientific created chaos. You know what I mean? Like a technical chaos, that like a Spielberg chaos where I'm like, I don't actually believe you that you've ever been like this, but you're like, I'm so good at making movies that I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that
It felt like mathematical chaos.
this felt. I've seen this comparison a lot, or like as a joke, but very similar to This Is a Movie Magic, like loving movies, just like The Fabelmans, right? But they're so polar opposite in terms of the effect and how to convey that across. And it's like The Fabelmans on drugs is what I've heard this movie described as, and that's kind of what its runtime really tries to do the whole time. Honestly, it is very chaotic and just I don't know. It is interesting to see how, because my biggest dilemma with this movie was the way that it ended. I think it wasn't tied up very well, but I think, how do you tie up something like this? But it was just something interesting that I didn't really. I thought about it when you're watching the movie, because I thought about how many movies I've seen this year with somebody in a movie theater watching a movie, a lot, and it kind of does become like, okay, I get it. We love movies, and I think that this movie kind of makes fun of that too. And so I did end up thinking about this movie after watching it, and I do want to watch it again. I'm pretty sure it'll be on VOD pretty soon, so I'm just waiting at this point.
So the whole idea of like the movie to end all movies, and I guess we can kind of get into some spoilers here. We don't really have to talk about the movie in too much detail, like beat by beat, but that end sequence, it's been going around. It's, how would you even explain it? It's like an art house trip sequence. It's like Damien Chazelle's take on the 2001 Jupiter landing, but instead of Jupiter landing, it's just the history of like film technology and progression, and it begins with like some Buster Keaton silent movie shit, and it starts with the image that we see in Nope of the first photographs put in sequential order to create a 2-second clip, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that man is my grandfather.
Yeah.
But it starts with the very first clip that would be considered a film to it ends with Avatar, which I found kind of like, I don't know if that's a shot or a compliment to Avatar, that's like was that the last time that film technology was really progressed before this, or that Avatar was the death of cinema. I'm not really exactly sure what that was supposed to mean by it being in there, but if it was a diss, I didn't understand it, because I'm like, all these movies are fucking tight. Like it was like Jurassic Park, T2, Tron, Avatar, I can't even with The Wizard of Oz, right? So it's like all of these movies that are really beloved, but then I couldn't tell if this was supposed to be positive or negative, like I've been seeing the joke that like he's literally me, and then I'm like, okay, is that a slight, is that a compliment? Like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I feel quite conflicted by the ending, because I don't know what it's trying to say. I feel like the movie is overwhelmingly negative, kind of like this is like my last shot, this is the last movie, but I kind of feels ironic being this year when this was such a good year. The movies is back, and then you release a movie talking about the death of movies. It's just a lot of conflicting feelings, about this film.
Yeah, I didn't take it like that. I took it as in he was kind of in the context of the movie, I felt like he was praising it, or I kind of took it as he would be a fan, or Damien Chazelle is a fan of Avatar.
Confirmed?
Well, I mean, the reason I would believe so is I think there's our whole main character here is kind of conflicted with the idea of like the movie making magic and where it's supposed to go now that movies are different, they've changed, and I think that insight into the future, whatever it is that you'd call it, that he has, kind of just shows that the same emotions that are present in those past movies will then move on with technological advancements. And I think Avatar just being the last one isn't necessarily like, oh, this is not the last time it was good. I just don't think the message was conveyed. I don't really take it as that was purposely the last time, like it was a chronological order thing. I just think it was like this guy had like a flash forward into the front, and I mean, to see something like what we're talking about, the first image on a camera to what is Avatar now, is two completely different, like the evolution of filmmaking, but the magic of filmmaking is still there. Because I think that's what the movie really talks about. That's the overlaying feature.
He
of it
should have
all.
ended it with La La Land.
Yeah,
with
himself.
his own movie,
Yeah.
right? The last time cinema was reinvented was the last time I made a movie.
Because that was something that I thought this film, as someone who, I mean, this is crazy to think, or I don't think it's like out there wild to think that a lot of people love Singing in the Rain. And this movie is just like a prime. He's obviously one of the biggest fans of Singing in the Rain, and I'm fine with it because it is one of the best. I think it's one of the best films of all time. So it's like okay, but this movie definitely, like, our main character. That's how I was like, everybody's like, he's just like me. Yeah, I definitely get it because this guy's just obsessed with good movies. So I think that just flash forward where it becomes kind of like it goes outside of the movie and it comments more on, like, it breaks that fourth wall and we're like, look how much we all love movies. And I think that's where it kind of like it took me out of what it was, the story that it was trying to do. But I think, like you said, there's a lot of moments in there that, to me, like, a lot of the humor works, but there's moments where it doesn't at all. And I think all those things tied in together is kind of where I didn't like those things, but I liked a lot more of it.
Damien Chazelle, no funny to me. Like, I wasn't buying any of the comedy. I was sitting there like Homelander in the movie theater while the audience was laughing around me. Just not my sense of humor, was not tickled by the film.
Yeah.
But enjoyable. One thing I wanted to kind of get back to that you just mentioned was, like, the character's ability to kind of, like, see into the future, right? And this movie has also been compared to Amsterdam, and I think it's because of its I guess maybe because of the time it takes place in, the cast, it kind of lives in the same world. It doesn't take place too much farther away from when Babylon takes place, right? It's like late 30s versus early 30s, right? But we were laughing before we had started recording this episode because we were watching the clip from Amsterdam where they're like, these characters would appear to have, like, knowledge from the future with how they're talking about World War II or how it might happen. And that's kind of something that is prevalent in Babylon as well. I had seen it described as, like, these characters almost have clairvoyance to, like, see into the future of what movies is going to be and the world will be like without them. And it's I found it to be kind of a weird theme to have in the movie with the story it was trying to tell, because it's trying to tell like 3 or 4 different stories. You have pretty much 4 main characters. You have Margot Robbie and Brad Pitt, and then you have Diego Calva, and then I don't have the actor's name in front of me right now, but I'll get it. But it's the actor who played Sidney Palmer, the jazz musician. He alone felt like he could have been his own movie. I almost wonder if that's the movie that Damien Chazelle really wanted to make. I didn't think he got enough proper time, but for some reason, I don't know. To me, I just felt like that was the part that Damien Chazelle was the most in love with. I thought those filmmaking like the filmmaking craft and aesthetic and the techniques that went into those sequences, I thought were the most electric. also they're kind of up his alley because of things like Whiplash or La La Land. I remember when we walked out of the movie and I was like, okay, I get it. You like jazz. Like, I know you like jazz, right? So I felt like the Sidney Palmer character was kind of maybe what he was really the most interested in. But the Diego Calva stuff, I thought he was a wonderful lead actor. I thought that he gave a phenomenal performance. I would love to see him in more stuff. I had seen him in Narcos Mexico. That's one of my favorite shows. And I love that now we have like, well, Diego Luna's been a big name for a while, but with Tanac Huerta and now Diego Calva, that Narcos is like becoming the Real Madrid farm system, dude. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They're just pumping out these big stars. Like, okay, who's next? You know, like even Bad Bunny was in fucking Narcos Mexico, and then he's in Bullet Train, and he's gonna be in the MCU. So,
Isn't Damian Bashir in Narcos?
I don't think so.
It just seems like it'd be like the holy, like, yep. This
I
is
don't
just
think
like
so.
the talent
But
pool.
let me get to that actor's name because I don't want to go on too farther without.
Is it Joven Adepo?
Yeah, Joven Adepo. So the Sidney Palmer character. Yeah, I just wanted to get his name out there.
Yeah, he did a good performance.
The Brad Pitt character, if I had to cut one out, I think maybe it would be him because I think the Margot Robbie character, and Diego Calva and Joven Adepo, they all kind of have a similar trajectory, and then it's going opposed to Brad Pitt's like decline.
Yeah.
So it's like it not only is it 4 different stories, it's 2 different approaches to it's a rise and a decline. So there's just so much movie going on. Like, I usually mean this in a good way, but this is the most movie a movie could movie. So it had a lot of mixed results to me, honestly, but I respect and admire the attempt, and I will always love when a director gets to spend $80 million to do whatever they want. We'll talk about that more later because I think that this was a great year for directors getting a gigantic bag to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So that kind of wraps up my take on Babylon. I don't know how much more you have to say, but the floor is yours unless you're ready to move on.
I am ready to move on just because when in the list, they'll probably just touch upon, again, one a sentence or two why this one is positioned where it is. But I will just say that I ended up liking this movie the more I thought about it and sat on it, and I am just excited to watch it again. I am interested to see how it does on just on VOD and see where it kind of holds up later in life. It's one of those ones that I'll be interested in for like a long time to see where it holds up.
Although this was not anywhere near my favorite movie of the year, I did have an enjoyable time. And you know what? I did my cinephile I paid it forward. I got one person to see this movie. So, you're welcome, Damien Chazelle.
Yeah.
Even when I didn't love your movie, I still made sure I got at least one person to go see it. So you can literally count the $16 to $20 you got from someone I know.
True.
So that takes us to another movie, which, boy, Babylon had a lot of discourse. Maybe this one didn't feel as large, but it was definitely there. And that we love Adam Driver on this podcast.
Yeah.
I have mentioned before that I'm pretty sure he is my favorite actor working. Noah Baumbach's latest film, distributed by Netflix, gigantic bag to make this movie. White Noise.
White Noise.
Adapted from a book by the same title. I have not read the book, so I'm not going to dive into the differences actually, because who am I to say that when I haven't seen or even read the book? And also, a movie should stand on its own. So, yes, it's nice to have source material, but you kind of fail as a movie if you can't, get the same or convey the same message without having the same space to tell the story. Like, that's your job as the movie, is to summarize the book or to take what you want out of it and to put it on screen and help us visualize the message that you got going here. So I don't really know how well White Noise does that. I don't even know if I like this film, but boy, do I love Adam Driver, and I will sit there and watch him for 2.5 to 3 hours be as silly or as serious as he wants to be. He hypnotizes me. I could stare into that man's eyes all day.
Yeah, White Noise. I do love that we did these two back to back. Not as deep as analysis, just because I do like enjoy the discourse of these movies. They both sit at a pretty similar level to me. White Noise I resaw today just for the podcast, just because it had been a while. I watched it around Thanksgiving, so it had been a while since I'd watched it. I really like this movie. I think whenever I think about the Nihilist and the Big Lebowski, I think this would be a movie that they would enjoy, or a book that they would have read, and that this would be a movie they would have been excited for. Whether they would have actually thought the message was conveyed, I don't know. That'd be interesting to see. But this movie for me, I think, again, we kind of talked about being given a lot of money to do what you want. I think Noah Baumbach here is kind of riding off of the Marriage Story, I guess profits you would call, or recognition seems more like it. I do enjoy his filmmaking style. I think it is very conversational and it is like open-ended. This movie, like you said, I think Adam Driver's performance and even Greta Gerwig do really well. I think this movie is shot really well, honestly. And I also really enjoyed how this movie has a lot of in the beginning is, I think I had kind of written in my first review for it how it was very Spielberg, like Spielberg, and then it kind of ended up just turning more into a nihilistic look, kind of what I would assume the book kind of tackles. So again, this is another movie that after I had watched it, I thought a lot about. I was like lucky to be able to watch this one kind of soon. I have the lobby cards for this movie. This is one of those movies I'm just happy exists. I don't know how much recognition this movie will get. I could see this is really funny. This is sometimes what people consider or people kind of see in the foresight. I could see this being a Criterion movie.
Oh, I get you. Yeah, possibly. Who knows? I mean, they've done it with The Irishman. I think they've done it with Marriage Story as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Or
But
the Roma, I think, right?
Roma has one. So, Beast of No Nation has one, I believe. So, the foundation has been set. So, Noah Baumbach seems like the exact kind of director who would fit right in with the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of the gigantic bag and the passion projects that we were talking about, $100 million movie with a box office of $34,000. You love to see it. These are the kind of things that only children can dream of. That, man, if someone gave me $100 million and I made whatever I want, and $34,000, man. I mean, I'm no mathematician here, but that seems like what, maybe 2,000 people or so, somewhere around that. 1,000 to 3,000 people have actually seen this in a theater. You were one of few.
Yeah.
You had
I
an
think
exclusive experience, literally.
I would say it was. I don't necessarily. This is why I said talk about this one's even different than Babylon, because like Damien Chazelle always come join me in my rejoice for this love for film, and like Noah Baumbach here kind of always really comes up like a really smart filmmaker. I've enjoyed whenever I've heard him talk. I think he is just really good at writing scripts. Honestly, his filmmaking style kind of reminds me of what I really like from like Come On, and I think he's just kind of that style exploded. But I think this movie, the fact that it was only put in theaters, like really small theaters, it almost didn't really care to make its money back. And I think that's kind of more of this guy, like at the balls on this guy, because it just seems like he made it because he was like, well, I made this for you guys, now this one's for me. And
Yeah.
and it's on Netflix now, so I don't know how much of that revenue is going to be balanced. How many people are actually, because
Well, how do they even make money? This is something we've rarely talked about before, because we don't really talk about that many Netflix movies.
Yeah.
But what the fuck? How do you spend $100 million to only make 34,000 back, and then you put it there for free? Like, how does Netflix make any money? I know that they're like perpetually in debt. I'm pretty sure they've been in debt since their creation as a company.
yeah,
So I don't understand how they even make these projects, but more power to them. I love the fact that this movie doesn't care about making its money back. I just love the idea of handing a blank check to a director and going, give us exactly what you want to make.
I will say
just off your name recognition alone. This is the timeline I would like to live in, where movies lose exorbitant amounts of money because the director had a vision.
Yeah, and I think
He made it for an audience of himself. Like I can't really be like Noah Baumbach knows what the people want. He was like, what if I made this movie about this like really confusing story about like death and nihilism and like what happens if there's like a toxic airborne event, but then you survive that event, like how would that affect your everyday life? And like what if I shot it like a Spielberg movie but the cast was kind of quirky like a Wes Anderson cast? Aren't those two things that seem like they would go together? Like it just feels like every single idea he's probably been holding in his head, just like, let me get this all out. Oh, what if I did like a 5-minute dance sequence at the end for the credits, and that's you watched Kung Fu Hustle I saw recently.
Yeah.
And was that your first time watching it? Mm-hmm. So that's a movie I saw when I was young. My dad actually took me to see that movie because my dad's always been into martial arts films. And, the dance sequence in that one, just how silly, but how also really it's silly, but very cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of got that vibe with the dance sequence at the end of White Noise as well. And, just seeing Adam Driver and his weird little family kind of, dancing through the grocery store, and you have just this kind of reminded me of that old music video of the guys on the treadmills.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like quirky mid 2000s hipster vibe,
I think something that I really did enjoy about this film is the quirkiness of it. I will say that into the mix of all of this, there's like a couple diopter shots in here, which big fan of. Yeah. Also Danny Elfman's score, which I was completely surprised by. After just kind of looking into it, just something that, again, they were like, let's get Danny Elfman for this movie,
Okay, so I have an admission to make. I don't know if I had mentioned to you my experience watching this movie.
Yeah,
it was not easy, but let me convey it to the listeners. So it's New Year's Eve, right? White Noise had been out for a day now, something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I believe New Year's Eve is a Saturday. So I'm at my sister-in-law's house, right? And we're going to have a few people over. We're going to have a pretty chill night. So I was thinking, you know what? Let me just throw on a movie while I'm waiting for everyone to get here. And I was like, what are the chances I could sneak in White Noise before the celebrating begins? So I got about an hour and 16 minutes in before they kind of formed a coup against me, and I had to give up my rights to the television. Somebody asked me, what are you even watching? And I was like, oh, it's a movie called White Noise. And they're like, what's it about? And I was like, I'm not actually sure yet. And I'm pretty sure that's where I lost them, because about 5 minutes after that, I was no longer watching White Noise. Bad Bunny was blasting on YouTube. So I had to watch this movie in 2 separate sittings, about 3 hours apart. And the admission that I actually wanted to make is that I got to admit, I think I watched this movie on like volume 2 or 3. So I didn't even realize that this movie was scored by Danny Elfman. Luckily, Adam Driver's voice is so deep you can basically hear it on mute. So that was really pulling through. Maybe that's why I was so captivated by his performance, even though, I love him to death. He's one of my favorite actors. But I need to rewatch this, in the way God intended, formatted to my TV on actual, volume 10 with no soundbar. So my White Noise experience is maybe not the best, but
very White Noise.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I enjoyed this film quite a bit. I thought that Adam Driver was, is Adam Driver the funniest guy in Hollywood? Maybe. He's doing these kind of films maybe once a year. He's like it's tough because Robert Pattinson also exists, but I do think he's my favorite movie star, not just actor. And the reason I say that is because you got to think of
he's a star.
The list of people that Adam Driver has worked with. He's done it all. He's done the small TV stuff when he was on. He cut his teeth on Girls, HBO show, comedy show, Lena Dunham, and then he's Kylo fucking Ren. Love or hate those movies, he's one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time, and it's because it's Adam Driver. Maybe Dev Patel, I would have loved it just as much, but other than that, I gotta say I don't think I would even care for that role if it wasn't Adam Driver.
Right.
And then he's making interesting choices every year. I mean, House of Gucci is a massive misfire of a movie, but I think he's giving a wonderfully fun, campy performance in that movie. You know, you guys just didn't understand House of Gucci, man. You were taking it serious. Who told you to take it serious? You know, it's a me, Mario. Like, that's literally the whole movie, and that's what makes it so great. I digress. But you know, he's also he's doing things like Annette. And he's doing films like White Noise. And then, you know, he's going to be Enzo Ferrari in Michael Mann's Ferrari movie.
He's going to fight a dinosaur.
Year, right? And he's going to fucking fight a dinosaur. So, you know, in this solo movie that it's going to be him and like one other person. And it's just Adam Driver, you know, punching and shooting dinosaurs in a prehistoric future Planet of the Apes style.
Let's
and
go.
I can't fucking with, you know, if the movies is really back, this is how you know.
Yeah.
You know, is films like this. As to your point on Greta Gerwig, I gotta say, maybe it's just because I watched it in the worst possible settings. Her performance didn't really break through to me. I felt like it could have been anybody. Honestly, I understand why it's going to be her because Noah Baumbach is married to her, but I thought it could have been maybe like an Amy Adams or a Jessica Chastain, and that might have made the role even more favorable to me. But I thought it was Adam Driver, I thought it was Don Cheadle, and I thought it was wonderful child acting performances as well. I don't have any of their names down, but you know, those Tenenbaum-like kids really kind of sold me on the film as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say is I did like the complimentary cast here. Don Cheadle, not somebody that I necessarily, we've always kind of joke about with Algae Rhythm, somebody who maybe has gone for the bag, but he's been in a lot of movies throughout my life that I end up really liking. But this is one that I think that I really admire his performance in. Doesn't have too much of lines, but I think he really shows his, like why he's an actor. And then I definitely enjoyed Jodie Turner-Smith too. I think just the quirkiness to her character isn't too long of a doesn't have too much runtime either, but I did think even in the dancing sequence she just kind of took over. And obviously, of course, we always like to see Andre 3000 in anything.
The last time I saw him in a movie was High Life. I'm not sure if he's been in anything else since then.
Oh wow, I didn't even
that
know
movie with
that.
Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, that's
where he's
cool.
on the spaceship. Yeah.
Talk about somebody who makes also a very bold artistic choices. That's a whole other person we look up to for different reasons.
When are we doing the Idlewild episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Seriously.
Outcast movie.
Yeah.
As for the plot, the synopsis, I honestly don't know if I could tell you. Adam Driver is a family man. He's been married about 3 or 4 times now at this point, right? He's
Husband to
kinda
Babette.
He's got a found family with Babette of his own children and his stepchildren. He is a professor on Hitler studies at the College on the Hill, and his family gets caught up in a airborne toxic event, right? And this becomes a survival movie for about the first half, and then it things get better. They survive. It's a disaster movie of the likes of which you haven't really seen, which is what about the people who survived the disaster, and what's their life like after you go through something like this? How do you view the world in the odd situations that you come across? Like I know Noah Baumbach had said in a behind the scenes for the dance sequence that, like, what is it like to go shopping at the grocery store after you've had this near death experience of, like, this like otherworldly thing has happened to you, and now you just have to kind of go about your everyday life. I don't know if that's really conveyed to me throughout the second half of the movie. I thought it kind of got lost for a while, and then by the ending, I was just kind of confused. But I enjoyed it. I know that, but that's why I'm having a hard time just kind of trying to decide if this is a good movie or a bad movie. Is this a bad movie that I like or a good movie that I don't understand?
Because I will say what I admired the most of this film, and on the second watch that I really was able to catch on, was how it really is in the same way that Babylon is. It's kind of like an overall commentary on human culture and kind of how we act, and what all we do is kind of the avoidance of death. Every action that we do is just something to comfort us from the fear of death. I thought it was a very quirky and nihilistic approach to that concept. I think that's kind of where the book probably people have thought maybe this was an unfilmable movie at one point. I think it's because it's hard to evoke that through the actions in the book. But I think once it's laid out in front of you and you're kind of thought to put to it, the whole film kind of starts to me, started to really click in terms of how well made it is. And I do think that's why I think later it'll be something that could be on like the Criterion, because it might be something that once we start picking at Noah Baumbach's like very long conversations on the film will kind of show that how much I think even like careness I say he would put into this film. This film doesn't have to exist, but it exists to the most, I think, in the care that it has, and also in a maximalist way, in the way that it was portrayed, probably at least like half of the movie to me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to see this again, just because I can't get enough of Adam Driver's performance.
Right.
Specifically the scenes shot in the college where he gets to kind of go on his actorly rants and monologues and really kind of just chew up the scenery and give those big fat performances, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Of like, let me control the room. Like he does it in a way that like Al Pacino or Robert De Niro would control a room.
I
You know,
agree.
he carries himself in a way that I don't think many other movie stars of his time really do. You know, we're kind of in the era of the small nebbish twinkish like movie star, you know. I mean, our in its latest form we have the Tom Hollands and the Timothy Chalamets, you know, like, who is this guy, you know what I mean? But Adam Driver, you know, we even have like the Andrew Garfields, the Robert Pattinsons, the people like that, but Adam Driver is a physical hulking presence in any room that he's in, you know? So I just feel like there's no other movie stars really like him at the moment. The only one that I could even think of is Daniel Kaluuya in Nope as a physical presence on screen of you're like, that's a man when you look at him, you know what I mean? It's not some like artsy fartsy Paul Mescal little like, oh, I'm sad and depressed and look at these circles under my eyes, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, nah, man, I'm a movie star, baby.
No, I agree.
And that's how I feel when I look at Adam Driver, whether he's Kylo Ren or whether he's covered in this wig. And I don't know if he gained weight for this performance or whatever, but they made him look about 20 years older than he.
Yeah.
You know, they made late form Adam Driver, and I thought he just fucking killed it in this role. I think one of those split diopter shots that you're talking about is where he is next to the film camera, right?
I don't know
Or
if
like
that's
the monitor one, but it looks
I love
like
that.
it.
I love
But,
that shot.
Yeah, that shit is so good. Noah Baumbach notes, I need more of this and less of the, you know, the Meyerowitz stories and the Francis Haas, and like, I get it, you know, that's what you're known for, but I need more shit like this, dude. So keep taking this Spielbergian approach to filmmaking with your own twist on it, and just give me more, because I need more White Noises. I need more Babylons. I need, you know, some of these other films that we're going to talk about. I need more shit like this. And this is another one for the movies is back, baby, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I wish this had gotten a wide release, at least so it could have made a couple $1 million, you know? But I can't even say it'll live on in infamy, because you just never fucking know with streaming nowadays, right? Maybe it won't one day. In 5 to 10 years, fuck, maybe even in 5 months, they might decide, oh, for some reason, we're going to just pull it from Netflix's servers and this movie no longer exists. Which kind of would maybe be a fitting ending for a movie like this, honestly, for it to just not exist one day. But, you know, who knows?
No, I see where you're coming from, and I could see that happening. That is always the fear with it being on any of the streaming sites exclusively, because it could always happen. And I think that's why I could see this being pushed. I think there is enough of a small, I would say maybe even cult following for Noah Baumbach's movies, and even Greta Gerwig, that this would get pushed to be in a physical media in some way. Because I think there's people who would want to, me included, that would want to have this film as... I just think this was, honestly, was more up my alley in terms of humor than Babylon was, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I did have a really good time watching this movie as well.
Yeah, this script, it's hard to... I know you said it was very, like, conversational, right? It's a very talky movie.
Yeah.
But I don't know if maybe that's why some people thought it would be so unfilmable, because it's so different than, like, most screenplays, you know? It's not really even conversational. It's, like, observant, and it's like they almost say, like, the They say the parts in the book that you are supposed to think in your head, not that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm too dumb to convey what I'm trying to say.
They run with the whole aspect that they're talking not how people talk, and maybe it's because they take it off as because they're very educated, and the movie does a really good job of you being able to believe that this is how they would talk, but it's very. I saw a lot of people. We talked about the conversation that was around this film as wasn't as loud, but it's because it seems that whenever I did see a general audience viewer watch this, it was at the end like, okay, that was the reaction. It was just like, I didn't know what I was supposed to feel about that. That was like, I just saw a lot of comments in terms of it just being like, what the hell did I just watch? And okay, or a bunch of just little things like that. And I think that is a valid way to feel after this movie, because I don't think, like you said, the dialogue, it's very observational, is I think a good word, but it's also, that's not how people talk.
I couldn't help but think of another director that comes to mind when I watch a movie, and I'm like, that's not how people talk. And I don't know if they do it I don't know if they do it on purpose, or it's just that they don't understand how humans talk. And I'm talking about M. Night Shyamalan and Old, right? Which is another movie that has the same issue for me, where I got to be honest, Old is one of the movies that I've seen in the past 5 years where I'm like, to this day, I have no clue if I like that movie or not. Like, I'm like, this is so bad, but also this is so, so good. And most of the time with M. Night Shyamalan movies, I feel I just know right away, I'm like, yeah, I really liked that, or no, I fucking hated that,
Yeah.
I hated The Village when I saw it in the theater as a kid, and I hate it to this day when I watched it last year. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that for me has never changed, and he's one of the directors that I feel very strongly about off the jump, and my mind hardly ever changes. But the reason I bring him up is to say that when I hear Noah Baumbach writing dialogue that doesn't sound like that's not how people talk, I know it's on purpose, because he is such a smart writer, and he's earned my trust as a filmmaker to like, okay, I get, this is what you're going for. Okay, so I'm on board. So now I have to try to, readjust my gears here, versus someone like M. Night Shyamalan, who's had many mixed results as well as many wonderful ones, but I'm more timid, or I'm more, I don't know, man. Like, you still have to prove it to me every time you make a movie,
I think that's a good point to compliment what you're saying of not knowing if it's a bad movie that you really like, or if it's a good movie that I'm not sure how much I like yet, because I think that's how the general audience feels, because the fact that we're saying that we're willing to readjust because we know who Noah Baumbach is, and we know his appreciation for film and the films that he does like, and M. Night Shyamalan's argument might be that, why don't you do that for me? And you've kind of stated why. And I think that might be, the general audience isn't going to readjust their interests like that. And that's why this film is coming across as like, what is this? And I think that's valid.
I do think that this film is a lot harder to pin down than Babylon is too. And I think that kind of goes back to my point as well of Damien Chazelle kind of like, look at the chaos, look at look at all the shit I went through to make this. And it's kind of like, 5 minutes in, turn to your friend and go, this better not be about the magic of movie making. You know what I mean? Where like you can pin it down in about 5 minutes what it's going to be about. But White Noise, you're 2.5 hours in, and you're kind of just like, what happened now? Spoilers here. You're like, there was a toxic airborne event, and then he killed the guy who was giving his wife a drug, but then like she cheated on him, but she can't remember, like, and this is all about death, and somehow like car crashes and Hitler is tied to all of this. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know. I guess I trust Noah Baumbach more than I trust some other filmmakers, maybe even more than I trust Damien Chazelle. So it worked for me. I definitely want to watch it again, and let's keep the Adam Driver train rolling. You know, like, I can't wait for this space dinosaur Planet of the Apes type of movie that they're going for, where he wakes up in the past 65 million years ago and he's got to fight dinosaurs. That sounds fucking rad. And I also can't wait for this Enzo Ferrari movie with Michael Mann. Michael Mann is back. Adam Driver's doing Italian again. All is right with the world.
Yeah. I mean, this man just likes to take his risk. We've seen him as Jack Crow in the last
I
last
forget
duel.
exactly what his name was. There you go.
Yeah.
See, so man, 2 movies with Ridley Scott. He really knows. He's made a movie with Spike Lee. He's made Star Wars. You know, he's made all of the right choices. And you know, Jim Jarmusch with The Dead Don't Die, Leos Carax with The Net. So,
Jeez.
you know, Adam Driver.
Him and Pattinson, man.
Adam Driver, dude. When you look back on his Logan Lucky, you know, with Steven
Oh my
Soderbergh,
God.
fucking love that.
What a
movie.
movie.
So you know, Adam Driver, man, his resume
Big
is
fan.
looking mint. You know,
Yeah, his resume is looking.
so I wanted to kind of get off those 2 movies. I
Yeah.
thought we gave them their due course, and honestly, I'm glad we did it this way because I don't think I could have pulled 2 episodes out of my ass about these movies. So I kind of wanted to go with some of my honorable mentions.
Mhm.
Okay, I have 20 movies as my list. I know you have 25. Do you have honorable mentions, or would you mind doing 21 through 25 as your honorable mentions, just so we can kind of...
I have 3 honorable mentions that are not on my top 25, so I'll just throw them into those same ones. Like, so we're on the even side. I'll just kind of make. I think one of these or 2 of these will probably have similar. Maybe they weren't on your
We're
top.
gonna have a lot of We're gonna have a lot of overlap, which is fine.
But yeah, I'll count these as my. So we'll do top 20.
Okay, so I wanted to start with a group of movies, just because I thought that this specific genre had a phenomenal year, and there's a few in my top 20, but these are some of my honorable mentions for the action genre. So Michael Bay's Ambulance, S.S. Rajamouli's RRR, Dan Trachtenberg's Prey, Top Gun Maverick. I thought I had another one here. But you know, action, especially big budget blockbusters, I thought it had a phenomenal year. I thought it was the genre that might look the best coming out of the year, maybe having its resurgence, like you know, our action movies back.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the other movies I'll talk about later on the list, I think help reiterate that point. But you know, one of the reasons, you know, the movies is back is because of these big budget movies like, you know, the Top Guns and the Avatars of the world that are helping keep the box office alive. When whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I mean, it's many sides to this story. You know, there's many different angles to look at it. But I think it's fucking sick that Top Gun and Avatar are the 2 top grossing movies of the year. And it's not because I think it's cool that they're IP. I just think it's a nice change of pace that it isn't Jurassic World or Fast and the Furious or Star Wars or Marvel or DC, you know? Like it's something a little older. It's a callback to a forgotten time, you know? Like the fact that both of those movies are sequels to to movies that are from just different times. You know, 2009 is a very different time in movies than it is now. And even what's the original Top Gun, somewhere in the early 80s?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is a very different time. You could argue that Maverick is like a sequel reboot almost, you know, for what it does. It's like, I don't know if it's a better movie than the original, but it just that technological push forward with the cinematography and how they were able to make this movie just fantastic. And genre or action is just one of those genres that really pushes the cinematography, you know, the medium.
Yeah.
Whether you love action movies or not, you can't help but admit that action helps push the boundaries of what's possible to do with the camera. I mean, look, for instance, what Michael Bay is doing with Ambulance and those drone sequences, dude. That's fucking amazing. And yes, it felt like it was 5 hours long. I watched it while I had a 100-degree fever, you know, like it was just a weird fucking event. But I had a great time watching it, and I felt that way about all of the action movies I saw this year, which is it's not par for the course for me. You know what I mean? I don't typically like action movies, but I don't know. Maybe it was just a callback to being a kid. You know, I saw a lot of action movies as a kid, but I thought that they had a great year overall.
Yeah, I mean,
action as a whole.
I agree too with just with Top Gun, just because it's not very high up in my list, but for a long time it was. But I think it's because I had just so much fun watching that movie in theaters, and I thought it was that was a movie that when I saw in IMAX, it was this deserves to be watched in the screen.
So I had two other honorable mentions that I wanted to bring up. They are documentaries. So that would be Moon Age Daydream, the
Yep.
documentary. I think it's by Brett Morgan. It's a documentary / art house film / concert film about the life and times of David Bowie. That was one of the more interesting experiences we had of our movie going year. We had never told this story because we hadn't got a chance to talk about this movie before, but our movie was delayed, right? Which was weird because, as much as we go, we know exactly how much time you have between the start time and when the movie's actually going to start, right? So we're like, dude, it's been 45 minutes since the showtime. Like, what the hell's going on? And then all of a sudden, it's like, put on your 3D glasses, right? And then we're like, okay, like, I don't know if this is just, the digital cut of this movie has this weird like splice in it that's incorrect, or what's going on here. And then it ends up being like Brahmastra 2, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget this old middle-aged like suburban white guy just standing up, turning around, looking at us and going, so what's going on here?
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I don't know.
Yeah, why are you asking me? Like, I know what would
You
be
go
going
find
on.
out, man.
Yeah, and
You did?
there was a couple
Pulled
of
his power.
Karens and Kens who did their jobs and went out there and they fought the good fight for the people.
Yeah, because our theater was double booked, and there was some people who had walked in to watch Brahmastra 2. I think
I feel bad for the people who
I
were
was gonna
there to
say.
see Brahmastra, and they were just the majority was booing them as they were like, "This is the movie I came to see."
Yeah, but like, what? Are you serious? Yeah. So, we ended up watching this pretty long film a little later. It took a while there. So to just because this is one of my honorable mentions as well. I think I had so much fun watching this. I think it is an experience of a watch. Being just a fan of his music a lot, being able to get just someone as mythological as him being this documentary to be like this of him just kind of makes sense,
I mean, obviously, we were David Bowie fans before this. I don't know who would go to a David Bowie documentary with this being their first experience.
Correct.
But, I felt like this is the closest I was ever going to get to a concert experience. We partook in a little bit of that good before. So, that California green.
Just perfect.
So to watch a concert film
Homage.
like this, I was like, oh man, I felt like this was the closest I was going to get to being stoned at a Bowie concert in the 70s.
Correct.
So I was like, I got to do it, man. I got to do it, responsibly, of course.
Where it's legal. States where it's legal.
Exactly. Everything's legal in a fictional hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, that was a great experience. I would say if you are in a state where, things are legal, I would say definitely partake because I know you always said like, I don't understand that, that sentiment of like being either like inebriated or under some kind of influence. Like, how does that make a movie better or not? But I gotta say from experience, I thought that made this movie even better than it may have. I was like, wow, this is a 5-banger. This movie rips. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I wouldn't have if I, hadn't had some fun before.
True.
But I feel like that's a sentiment where me and you disagree, not deeply. We've never really talked about it, but I'm like, I don't know. I think it makes movies better. But anyways, Moon Age Daydream. The other one I wanted to bring up was we are both big fans of Andrew Callahan and Channel 5.
Yes.
So This Place Rules, a documentary by A24 and HBO. Captures the events leading up to and surrounding the January 6th insurrection, which is, happy anniversary. We're celebrating by recording this podcast today on January 6th. Commemorating R.I.P. bozos to those who try to overthrow the government. Hold this. But wonderful documentary, 2 hours of something that we usually only get for 15 to 20 minutes. Just, Andrew Callahan, the way I don't even want to say exposes, but the things he gets out of people by putting a camera in front of their face. It's like he just knows how to find people who are willing to give so much, I don't know if he's technically the director of the film, but, he's an artist, and I don't say that lightly. I do think that he just really understands how to. Yeah, he is the director. So as a director, I think that he really just pulls, performances out of people who are non-actors.
Yeah.
So if you were not aware of Channel 5 or Andrew Callahan, I would highly suggest watching this, even if you're just if you're a political person, if you're a non-political person, whether you like documentaries, whether you like content, whether you're a YouTube person, because if you don't know who he is, he originated from Channel 5 on YouTube and All Gas No Breaks. But just wonderful, man. I saw it on New Year's Eve, yeah, because it came out on like that Friday, I think.
I believe so, yeah. So I think we've always kind of loved internet humor, and this is kind of the epitome of that. But what I think, in all honesty, I was having a conversation about this film after watching it, was that I thoroughly believe Andrew Callaghan is one of the few real reporters out there right now. I've always kind of grown up being a fan of what the media should do and how powerful it can be. I think Andrew Callaghan is a perfect culmination of presenting you with what is real and not giving you a side to pick. I obviously think he's a little bit more left leaning, but I will say that he seems like such a good person, such a open person, that I think his sentiment towards what side he validates for is kind of works for him. I don't really think he looks down at anybody, and I think that's why he's able to get these performances from people. I think he's respected by anybody he has a conversation with, and I think that his ability to just present to you the situation without any bias is what I wish this country did more. I think it's a lot of the reporters in the past that have been great for, exposing the meat industry and how disgusting the food was before and changing the world, or how the U.S. kind of acted. I think for somebody so young to be so ambitious and aim for those things, I just think this was just right up my alley. And I think it was just phenomenal, honestly. I think there's nothing but positive things that will come for his future, and I can't wait to see how much more he's able to tackle issues that just need to be talked about more. I thought he did he didn't even really do much. He doesn't really comment on anything. He kind of just stands there and lets them talk, like you said. He presents a lot of good performances from these people just because he's trusted, and I think he, in a way, was able to humanize sides that, or people that for either side maybe aren't quote unquote seen as people,
And the mainstream media is already playing right into his hand. So he was on CNN, and he called them out for doing the same thing that Fox News does with the fear mongering and the 24-hour hate news cycle. They fell right into his hand. He did an interview recently with NPR where he was questioned on why he called Fox News the mainstream media. And he was like, because it is the most watched television show network in the country. So I don't know what you want me to call it. She's like, yeah, but they don't tell the truth. And then he kind of just looked at the camera, kind of had like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Office type moment where he's like, are you serious? Did you just say that? Like, don't you understand the world we live in? And it's just, he has this way of kind of letting people just, I don't want to say trip over themselves, because I don't think he does that on purpose. Like, I don't think he's manipulative at all in any way. I just think he has such a good way of getting people to kind of reveal what their inner thoughts, and maybe because he's comforting, like you said, but who knows. But it's been great to watch his kind of boost in his fame, you know what I mean? Right. I hope it leads to more of these good things. And like you said, he's a well needed artist and journalist that we have working today. And to the younger people, I would say he's one of the more important people on the internet, and you love to see it.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up a group of streaming releases that I saw this year that I thought were all, to varying degrees, very entertaining. I slightly mentioned this film, but, Prey, the latest Predator film. Totally wish I could have seen this in a movie theater.
Definitely.
I won't go on too much about Prey. Just wanted to bring it up again since we had talked about it in our summer wrap-up.
That's
video.
true.
Another one I wanted to bring up is a Disney Plus streaming original, which was Chippendale's Rescue Rangers.
Ooh.
Loved that movie. Not that it was like this, all-time great film of the year, but we hadn't had a Roger Rabbit like movie in many, many years. So it was just kind of fun to see the all of the different animation styles and CG used throughout the film. It's heavy-handed with its callbacks. It's not subtle. It's definitely just an IP money-making machine. But I did think that there was a fun story throughout. And every once in a while, Disney gets it right. And I thought that Rescue Rangers was one of those moments.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. We did kind of talk about it, I think, a little bit in the Roger Rabbit episode. I forgot that was this last year. Yeah, it was a fun movie.
A Netflix one for me was Adam Sandler's Hustle, kind of a counterpart to his Uncut Gems, his Uncut Gems story. It kind of. I feel like this movie was Adam Sandler cashing in his Uncut Gems clout to kind of get another movie made that was a little more of a serious role. I was not expecting him to pump out a similar performance so quickly. I thought it would take a little more time. I thought we'd do like Hubie Halloween 2 and some other shit movie before we got, but I assumed it would be like Uncut Gems, everything else, and then the next movie he does with the Safdies. You know what I mean? But no, it was nice to get Hustle. We were talking earlier in the week about we're not getting enough sports movies lately. I know we're big fans of the NBA. So, that was lovely, especially getting to actually see real NBA athletes on film, not just fucking, the money balls of the world where they have Chris Pratt playing an Oakland A's pitcher and things like that.
There's two great Anthony Edwards actors in this world.
That's hilarious. And 3 other ones I wanted to bring up were all Hulu originals. One of them we had already spoken about, but that was Fresh. No Exit, which is a tight little thriller set in a Alaskan. Or is it Alaskan? But it's like in a winter. I'm really butchering this, but wintry night. They're kind of in like a community center, like police station. Group of strangers all trapped together. Somebody's who is not who they say they are, and typical movie of you've seen it before, but I thought it was a fun watch, right? And then the other one was Deep Water, the Ana de Armas and Ben Affleck movie. I really enjoyed that film. Not that it was even really worthy of being on this list, but it just felt like a movie we don't really get too often anymore. So I've been enjoying Ben Affleck's last few performances, and I do think Ana de Armas can do no wrong. I have not seen Blonde. It's not really something I'm ready to dive into yet, because I felt like that movie, the discourse kind of blew over, but I just feel like there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't know if I'm ready or willing to do that yet. But Deep Water, I wanted to bring that one up as well. Ben Affleck gets cucked. What's not to like,
Good point.
So do you have a few more that you want to bring up? Because I only have a couple more.
So just to kind of catch up to where you are, 2 other shorts that I really enjoyed this year. Werewolf by Night. I thought Michael Giacchino being given the camera to just work his own. I just really appreciate that Disney went out of their way to make the Thing an actual. I'm butchering the word here, but it's not CGI. It's actually
practical.
It's actually a practical being. I enjoyed the outlook to try to do something different with the small runtime, and I just had a lot of fun.
They went for the Universal Monster movie.
Yeah, and I do think I really enjoyed the performance from, I always forget his name here.
Gael
Bernal. Yeah, it's because I've seen him a long time ago in Y Tu Mamá También, so I just kind of always had a small little love for the actors.
He was an old also.
Yeah, and so like Diego Luna, him, I've always kind of just had a small love for them. So I'm glad that he's a werewolf. I had talked about before I needed more werewolf movies. I kind of got one, so that was fun. And the other one that I just wanted to bring up that's similar, just another short film, is The Viewing, which is one of the episodes that Panos Cosmatos did for Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which is a Halloween series, or I would say a horror series.
Hell fucking yeah, brother. The
Yeah.
viewing was sick.
Yeah, and I just think we had kind of talked about everything that is quote unquote wrong with the 80s, synth garbage. This has everything of it. I mean, just amazing lens flare, just the epitome of style. And I just couldn't get enough of it. I think I saw it like 4 times, honestly. I just thought it was the coolest thing to just throw on, and really, Panos Cosmatos really just lives in this weird ether realm, and I know you agree. I'll just watch anything he ranks, but this was just, I don't know. I absolutely love this, though, and I can't wait to see what he's coming up with next.
Nice. 2 horror movies. I won't go on too much about them because we've done episodes on them, but Pearl and Men, these were close contenders to make my list, but I liked a few movies more. I will say, so a couple other horror movies that I enjoyed more. A comedy special, Gerard Carmichael's Rothaniel, phenomenal. Definitely check that out. I won't say too much about that. A movie we saw earlier in the year that we didn't really get a chance to talk about, but The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage, Pedro Pascal.
I was gonna play that today.
There you go. He was in Narcos as well. Right?
Yeah.
So it's all coming back to Narcos.
I love him.
But really fun movie. It did for me what I think The Lost City and Ticket to Paradise did for others, where it was like, hey, the movies is back. It's a movie star in a movie in a big movie in a exotic location doing movie star silly things. You know, George Clooney and Julia Roberts had their moment this year. What's their face? Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock had their moment, and it was nice to see Nicolas Cage get his moment and kind of a return to form. Okay, we're back to respecting Nicolas Cage, which we all should have been doing, you know, forever. But didn't Mandy kind of solidify that, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess not. Mandy was not big enough to do that.
It's Pig.
But I am glad that Pig and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent kind of have us back on track. You know, this is how you know the movies is back. You know, Nicolas Cage's star power again. We recently saw a trailer for Renfield, which I kind of wish they weren't doing the whole like, so that just happened version of Dracula, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like it kind of feels like inspired by like What We Do in the Shadows and things like that.
Right.
But that's not really the worst thing to take inspiration from, so I can't be too mad. I just kind of wish this was like, you know, they should have cast him as Nosferatu and Robert Eggers' Nosferatu.
They seem like
I wish it was doing that. I wish it was Dracula with some gravitas.
Yeah, it's like it seems more of an, I don't mean this as a slight because I love Prey, but like a Hulu original type of film.
Hey. 2 other films I wanted to bring up, actually 3. So Elvis, I won't hark on that too much because I'd already talked about it in the summer review. Austin Butler, wonderful performance. Baz Luhrmann, maximalist filmmaking. Triangle of Sadness, we know how we feel about that because we did that episode. And a sleeper favorite, I feel like this movie's kind of picking up steam now that it's on Netflix. I know you enjoy it as well. Aubrey Plaza, Emily the Criminal.
Yeah.
Very fun, small film. Not the best movie you've seen all year. Not the worst. It's going to be one of those movies that we talked about. Like, there's one guy on Letterboxd who's probably just mad this movie exists. You know, what was even the point of that?
Yeah.
And scamming's okay?
Yeah.
You know, but I definitely think Aubrey Plaza is just, you know, building that resume even more. Like she has with the likes of Ingrid Go West and the Beverly Loughlin movie or the... Black Bear, which I saw recently, which I did not think was very good. That was in 2020. But Emily the Criminal, I think, and especially her role in The White Lotus. It's currently Aubrey Plaza season, so
Yes, sir.
I'm a fan. I mean, I have been since Parks and Rec, but it's nice to see everybody else catching up.
I did enjoy the tension in that movie. I think it reminded me very reminiscent of, because you brought it up, Uncut Gems. I think it took a lot of inspo from those type of films, and I'm glad you brought that up. It is a film that I enjoyed. Didn't make the cut for me, but just slightly, as there was a lot of films.
I know you liked it a lot, though, right?
Yeah, I did.
So, all right. Well, do you have anything else that didn't get brought up? Because I'm ready to start my 20.
So to catch up to your 20, the only one that you didn't bring up that is in there. So 25 is Prey. 24 is After Yang, which we did slightly talk about in one of our mixed reviews with Turning Red, I believe.
Oh yeah, the winter like roundup.
Yeah.
Right.
So after Yang again, really enjoyed Colin Farrell's performance in this one. He's had a great year. I thought this film was another one of A24's maybe little underrated films, just because they seem to have so many of those releases very to go under the radar. I thought again, I think I forget her name, the girl that I brought up for White Noise, Julie. I forget her last name. She's in this film as well. I do think I enjoy her presence. So After Yang was worth bringing up. You might have
Jodie Turner.
Jodie Turner,
Yeah,
yes.
there you go.
And then you
Like
might have you might have it higher than me. I have The Northman here, which I'm sure if you have it higher, we'll get into that later. I have Triangle of Sadness here, and then I have Glass Onion at 21, which we kind of talked about last week. I thought this was a really fun film. Rian Johnson, another director who's been given money to just do what he really wants to do, and it seems like everybody in the cast and himself are having fun doing these, and I'm having just as much fun watching them. So definitely want more of these.
You know, there might not be anyone bigger than Rian Johnson who is doing the like I'm gonna do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, especially with these two mystery films, and then with his Star Wars film.
So
you know,
exactly.
Or his Star Wars film. Sorry, I always forget that JJ came back for the third one.
So Netflix, I mean, we'll get more into. We kind of already talked about all year that they've done this, but I know one of us have more up higher in our list, have another example of Netflix giving another director just money to do what they want with their name. So again, Netflix, I don't know how they make any profit, but I will say that this year they have kind of taken a lot of L's for cinema, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta love him and you hate him, right?
Yep.
It's a double-sided sword or whatever they say. That I don't know if they're ruining movies or they're the last stand for passion filmmaking.
Exactly. It's hard to tell sometimes.
It's hard to say, yeah, because you get the Gray Man and things like that.
Huey Halloween.
Yeah, exactly. Which it would be one thing to say like, hey man, that's how they make their money, but that's not.
No, it's not.
So I don't know how they make money.
Interestingly enough, I think it is stuff like the series, right? Because you do get stuff like Dahmer and Squid Games.
The Wednesdays.
Yeah, so maybe that is where they just blow the water out, and then they're able to make all these. They'll lose money on these. It's fine.
Yeah. So I'll start. Glass Onion. Not worth the discourse, people. Chill out. Enjoy a movie, man. You're literally getting mad at like Ocean's 11.
Have
You know what
some
I
fun,
mean?
man.
Like that. No, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know if Ocean's 11 is the type of movie that would make a top 20 list for you, but I'm just saying, like, this is the kind of movie that just used to exist all the time. Like, just chill out. Okay,
I've heard
it's not that serious.
I've heard a lot of people actually really like that movie. I haven't. I think I've seen it once, Ocean 11, but I think it's a fair comparison.
Hey, I was a Ocean's fan when I was a kid. I was there for all three of those.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget one year. Some kid I played baseball with had a birthday party at the AMC one of the AMCs that we still go to this day, and it was a watch party, like 10, 12 kids and his dad, and we went to go see Ocean's 13.
Nice. Nice.
So I'm going to start with my 20.
Okay.
I will be fast about some of these. We've already kind of agreed before that if a movie overlaps, say for instance my 19th movie is your 10th movie, it's probably best to let's just kind of get it out of the way, just so that we're not too confusing. So I'll go first. My 20th favorite film of the year was Disney's Turning Red, film we've talked about before. It's one that has really stuck with me. I've thought about it often. One of my favorite Disney movies probably since like the original Incredibles, if I'm being honest. I can't think of too many more that have actually stuck with me or I've had the urge to watch again, but Turning Red is the one. I think that and Soul are probably like the two where I'm like, yeah, like the Disney still knows what they're doing every once in a while. While I enjoyed Raya and the Last Dragon, I didn't feel as connected to it as I did Turning Red or Soul.
No Strange World.
I almost watched that the other day because it's on Disney Plus. I'm trying to do the movie a day for the year, which I believe will probably be impossible because of my daughter. But Strange World is one of those ones where I'm like, I might as well just crank it out. It's right there. Why not?
Yeah.
But yeah, so my number 20 was Turning Red. Alvaro, your 20th favorite film of the year.
My 20th favorite film of the year is Corsage, which is going to come out, I think, in theaters this week.
Oh shit, he's big dogging me right now. Oh, you know, this movie you haven't seen yet. You know, you fucking normie.
Corsage, Vicky Krieps, which we're both really big. Well, we're both really big fans of Paul Thomas Anderson, but both really big fans of Phantom Thread. That's where I know her from. I think she is a phenomenal actress, and I think this film is a baby Spencer. And I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it's kind of just, you know, a made up story, but I enjoy that somebody could go out there and really put so much care into a story that ends up feeling very grounded.
Well, it's a fictional story about a real life princess, right?
I think the princess is also fictionalized.
Okay.
So,
you don't want anybody coming for you. They'd be like, "That's my she's somebody's grandmother,
no,
bro."
Yeah, but I did think it was very emotional, and I had a lot of fun watching that. So that's actually a late entry into. That's my number 20.
So for 19, an A24 film, a film we talked about during Halloween, one that neither of us were really sure if we actually enjoyed the film or if I was hate watching the film, or, you know, it's kind of been it's been stuck in my craw since I've watched it. I've thought about it often. Is Bodies, 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 a comedy, thriller, horror, isolated film. Rachel Sennott, wonderful performance. I don't have too much more to say. I mean, literally listen to the episode if you want to know what I thought. But yeah, that's my number 19. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Fun. The more I think about it, there is a lot of stuff that I ended up finding funny from that film, or quotable things that just, you got to appreciate the different types of humor, I think. Just, we don't get too many comedies, so I just get little sprouts of it in every of these films. I have an A24 film at number 19 that was the last episode before this. So it's The Whale. Again,
you moved it to 19?
It was, yeah.
I thought you had it at like 11.
It was higher up until I put some thought into it after the second watch. I do think I enjoy the performances a lot from this movie, but I think overall movies that'll resonate with me longer were movies that I ended up putting in front of it. I think you had said this. There's a lot of the films, even in this top 20, from this number 20 to the number 10, or remember number 11, they're all pretty close to each other.
Yeah, for me, 1 through 12 are all equal.
Yeah, like
everything else is like,
depends what day you get me, you know.
The level, I can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
my list.
One more time. What was that?
So my list is it's The Whale.
The Whale.
Number 19. So yeah, again, you could just go check out the episode. I did really enjoy the film, so it's not a slight that it's down there. It's just that I enjoyed a lot of movies this year.
So for my number 18, I alluded to this earlier in the episode when I was mentioning that there was things on Letterboxd that I didn't realize were there, and I was like, why have I not been logging these? Giving a shout out to my childhood roots, man. Something that's been near and dear to my heart for a very long time. It's actually one of the reasons I got into filmmaking in any sense at all, which was, you know, filming skateboarding with my friends, and that would be the Supreme video Play Dead, directed by William Strobeck. If you don't know anything about skateboarding, you know, they make skateboard videos. They are skaters who are professionals, skate in clothes, or for brands, or they're, you know, they skate the boards for the companies that they're sponsored by. I know I'm making it sound like I'm talking to a 3-year-old, right? But you never fucking know. I don't know how much these two worlds actually collide with each other. Skate videos take lots of inspiration from real films,
Yeah.
but I don't know how much film takes inspiration from skateboarding. Culture does as a whole. I think you know this, so I'm not talking to you directly, but I don't know if many people understand how big of an impact skateboarding has on style, fashion, music, just youth culture in general, right? And Supreme, I feel like if you're on the internet, you definitely know what Supreme is. But if you don't, really know their roots, this is what they're known for is
Yeah.
skateboarding. So to, have a skater like Tyshawn Jones or Kader Sila, and, Tyshawn Jones was the skater of the year this year. One of his most fascinating tricks in this was a kickflip over a subway gap. So literally in this New York subway tunnels, the part where the train is, he kickflipped the entire gap. And I'm sure if you don't know much about skateboarding, you're like, what's so impressive about that? But trust me, it is. And he's one of the greatest skaters of all time, one of the most talented skaters of all time as well, like physically gifted in a sense like that. Like he's been described as the Michael Jordan of skateboarding, So I do think that if you are looking for something different, maybe a different way to engage with films, I think skateboarding videos are a great way to do it. So Supreme's Play Dead, man. Check it out.
I will say that I think we kind of touched upon we need more sports films. Skating is, to me, is a sport, an Olympic sport at that. So I think that we can only kind of get these stuff microdosed. We kind of only got very few skate movies, like something like mid-90s, which is arguable. Like I enjoyed the film, but there's definitely not a strong film that has stayed with me. But I will say that directors like maybe Spike Jonze are one of the few that has kind of praised the style that skating has brought. Maybe someone like Mike Mills as well, but very few. But
it's few and far between.
But I do think that it's valid to bring up, and I do think that it has a lot of influence.
Just from an indie aspect, nothing is more indie than making a skate video. Talk about permits and locations and music
Correct.
And all of that stuff. Nobody is doing it like skateboarders. These guys are real pirates. You know what I mean? Using whatever fucking music they want, making a location out of nothing. I can't fucking skate here. Watch this. You know what I mean? Like just all of the things that go into skateboarding. It's just so beautiful. It's one of the more, to me, I mean, obviously I'm biased because I grew up skateboarding, but it's one of the more beautiful art forms that exist. And I don't think it gets enough credit. As oversaturated as skateboarding is right now, I mean, goddamn, it feels like everybody has probably picked up a skateboard or a pair of roller skates in the past 3 to 4 years. But I think it's time for skateboarding to get a little more damn respect. You know what I mean? And I never thought that this would be the platform to convey that message. But then, finally clicked with me after watching this. I was like, why the hell not? Like this is something I could be doing, is helping talk about this more, maybe getting some people to watch some damn skate videos. Yeah. And looking at it like not just because I'm a skater, but from the artistic filmmaking aspect of what goes into creating these videos.
Yeah. I mean, the fellas are lucky here that they don't, Letterboxd does not log World Cup games as films, because Argentina versus France would be number one.
Better than any movie.
Yeah.
That was the best thing I saw all year.
Yeah, so,
Argentina versus France. France didn't even win, and that's what I wanted.
I believe I resonate with you. Obviously, I didn't grow up skating, but I resonate with you, the sport being artistic and being even cinematic at points.
Yeah. So, Play Dead, and what's your number 18?
My number 18 is Top Gun. You kind of brought it up as an honorable mention. Like I said,
not on my list, but honorable.
Top Gun is some people that I know, and a couple of a lot of other people's favorite movie of the year. It's one of the discourse that I've seen from people online where the snobby filmmakers are posting their top 10s and where is Top Gun? I think it's a valid opinion. Top Gun was and is maximalist filmmaking at its peak. I think had we had better timing around the time, this probably would have gotten its episode, honestly, just because I think me and you maybe sat in the same boat before the movie kind of came out, that I didn't really care. And that's not because I don't care for Tom Cruise. It's the fact that Top Gun never was resonating for me. After I heard the hype from the new one, I kind of went back and watched it again and kind of realized how well, beautifully shot Tony Scott did the original. And it kind of made me more interested in this reboot. But I think the reboot kind of differentiates itself a lot from the original and kind of ended up really, for me, having some of the scenes in cinema this year that really show what we can achieve now with our technology. And I think that at its core is the future of filmmaking. So I think that's worth
of what you can do with filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I had alluded to this earlier, but the
Correct.
two top grossing films of the year being Top Gun and Avatar. The reason I think that is good versus whether if it was Marvel or Star Wars or something like that. I know you said, well, why is it cool, but it's not cool when it's, Marvel or DC or whatever, is because they're not pushing the boundaries of filmmaking. And I do feel like whether you agree or disagree with Avatar, that it is, and whether you don't like the what that makes, you can't deny what it's doing to push the boundaries of what filmmaking is. And I feel the same way about Top Gun. So that's why I think that those are wins, because it's like, it's hard. I don't know if it's fair to say like it's experimental filmmaking, because it's it even feels weird to call them franchises, because it's not neither of these were surefire hits that they were going to be the top grossing movies of the year. Top Gun was really the one that was like, oh, okay, fuck, like the box office is back, like people are ready to go to the movies again. And now Avatar has kind of solidified that. And to give them their credit, Doctor Strange did that as well. That was probably the third highest grossing film of the year, I believe. So 2022 was the year of like people are ready to get back, and I'm just happy that the two films that made the most money are the ones that I thought pushed the boundaries of filmmaking to the furthest reaches, and also laid some foundation for further filmmakers now. Because I'm like, holy fuck, if Avatar 2 and Top Gun Maverick are doing this, like, so what can people do in 20 more years from now? When I'm like 50, 60 years old, what am I going to be like? Will I even be able to fathom like the movies that I used to watch as a kid versus now? Like what you were talking about with like the first, photographs put in order to, the original Avatar, like how different that is. Like, we live in the time now where it's going to jump so fast that I might not even be able to comprehend what a movie is. And I look forward to that.
Exactly.
I really do. As much as I love film shot on celluloid, that's not the only thing I want forever. So, give me some HFR, give me some of these fucking crazy cinematography techniques of letting the actors control the camera while they're being flown around by fighter pilots. Like I do. Give me Michael Bay doing these crazy fucking drone shots that I never thought I would see in a movie. Like it's just it feels good to know. Like I know Ambulance fucking flopped tremendously, but I just thought, we're kind of living right now through a good time in big budget filmmaking. Last year we had Dune. This year we had The Batman and Avatar and Top Gun. So I'm just like, okay, here we go. Maybe, Jurassic World is done now. That's good. Hopefully Fast and the Furious can bow out soon. And you never know. Maybe Marvel or DC will fucking, get their shit together and be like, why are we not pushing the boundaries of filmmaking? I'm still not opposed to that happening. I would be more on Marvel's side right now if they were giving me what Top Gun and Avatar are doing, of like really pushing the boundaries of filmmaking. So, that's my rant on big budget filmmaking and Top Gun.
Top Gun. Yeah. And just to top it off and finish is that, this movie has Tom Cruise.
So
if you didn't know, this movie has one of the last fucking rock stars in this world. Maybe not the most agreeable person, but definitely one of the best actors we've ever gotten. Yeah, Short King. So definitely Top Gun Maverick, number 18.
One of the most emotional and riveting scenes all year was Maverick's test flight to prove that he could complete the course.
My God,
dude. Pure cinema.
Also in the beginning when he's trying to get to Mach 10. Oh my God.
Cinema.
And that's within the first 20 minutes.
Where am I? Earth.
Oh, cinema, son.
Yeah, love it. So as much as we love indie movies, as much as we love deep, thought-provoking, philosophical films, my boy, I fell in love with movies because of the big budget blockbuster, and I'll never deny that. So when it does deliver, you got me. I'm there. Like Jean Diel, man, fuck that shit. Give me Top Gun. But I digress. So that takes me to my number 17, which is another I guess unconventional film. Not really. It's been around for a very long time now, but Jackass Forever.
Jackass Forever. Yeah,
what is there to even say? The boys are still doing it.
To be hard, it's hard to even rank this like in Letterboxd rating for me.
I gave it a 5.
Jackass. Yeah, it's just because, like you said, it's it is kind of hard. I like that you kind of have them next to each other. Jackass is kind of really is an extension of skateboard culture, kind of
That's where it started.
the quote unquote hooligan culture, and kind of that's just our stuff, man. That's our era. We're showing our age here, but we've been there since day one, man. And we weren't supposed to be watching this stuff, and we were watching this stuff, and now we're old enough to watch it, and these guys are old enough to not have to. They shouldn't be doing this anymore, but we're here, we're watching it, and it's just hard to say I had more fun in any of these other movies than I did watching that movie.
As much as James Cameron or Robert Eggers or Jordan Peele or Steven Spielberg or whoever is trying to convey the beauty of cinema, the magic of movie making, I don't know if anything does it as much as, Johnny Knoxville getting punched in the nuts and his friends laughing. Is there anything more primal or just deeply funny than the stuff you see in Jackass? It's not even things you could write.
Nope.
It's just it's Looney Tunes in real life. It's just humor embodied. Maybe, I don't know if it's an American thing, not an American thing. I've never even really thought about that before. I don't know how well received these films are internationally, but Jackass is life, man. I know I'm being hyperbolic here, but I can't even explain how hard I laughed the first time I watched this movie.
I just mean Johnny Knoxville, Evel Knievel.
Better.
Yeah,
Better.
like they
Evel
live in same infamy me. I'm just glad to be alive while these boys are alive, as George or Orson Welles would probably have a great statement to say.
The two greatest stuntmen of all time were working simultaneously: Tom Cruise and Johnny Knoxville.
God, Johnny Knoxville. I mean,
on two separate ends of the spectrum. If Top Gun and Jackass Forever doesn't show you our wide range of appreciation for cinema, I don't know what does, because they couldn't be any farther on the opposite side of the spectrum.
He almost died for this film.
Again, I'm sure Tom Cruise almost dies every time he makes a movie, and
so
one guy's getting punched in the nuts and the other guy's flying motorcycles off of cliffs,
They put their body literally on the line for my entertainment, and who am I for them to do that? So I love them.
Yeah, exactly. I'll never fail to appreciate what Johnny Knoxville does.
We put your body on the line for me.
You're on 17 now, right?
So
okay.
My number 17 is the only other film I have here that is, I think, already out in theaters now, but it's Broker. I really wanted to watch this movie because of Song Kang-ho.
Big upping me again, another one I haven't seen.
Just a phenomenal film, very heartfelt. I think you had kind of talked about I have a slow spot for family films. I think these Korean films and international films have a different way of approaching a subject matter that might have to do with more modern issues like untraditional families. And honestly, just Song Kang-ho's performance in this, I know I've loved him ever since I saw him in Parasite. For me, was the first exposure to him. I just think it's phenomenal acting, and again, it's just really, I think, a compliment to international cinema. I think they take cinematography very seriously, and this film, just like another Korean film that we're going to talk about higher on the list, just goes out of its way to really make stuff look a lot better just because, and I always appreciate that.
Yeah, we are in some bad times with cinematography every once in a while, but it's always a nice relief when you see someone who takes it so serious.
Yeah, exactly.
I haven't seen the movie, but it's one I'm really wanting to see, and I actually hope we do an episode on it going forward.
I think we'll probably end up doing it. I mean, it'll be in theaters too, which I think is another way, a great way to see it. I think it's just a film that really warrants the time that it. I know it's kind of like a longer film, but I always feel like they do a really good job of pacing these films, and I'm always in it. I'm always really interested. So I think we'll end up doing an episode on it, but this will be the first little preview, I guess, of bringing up how good it is.
Nice. So that'll take me to my number 16, which was David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future. This was a movie that on its release, I had some issues with it. It wasn't so much that I had I didn't have any feelings like, oh, this was a bad movie or I didn't enjoy this. It's just that I wanted so much more out of it. But David Cronenberg is a more mature filmmaker now, and I feel like he took a more mature look at the type of work that he's done in the past and kind of shifted a little bit, which I think was a good idea. It's nice he can leave that stuff to his son. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
His son can go ahead and take up that mantle now. So to see a David Cronenberg movie just with those heavy sci-fi visuals and aesthetics and the way he tells a story, I thought it was a very interesting movie. I thought Viggo Mortensen gave one of the funnier and underrated performances of the year as Saul Tenser, which is like that could be the name of the year.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? And Kristen Stewart's performance as Timlin. I'm already getting used to Léa Seydoux just playing weirdos in movies, so that's it's just a whole little cast of weird characters. Not the doctor, the guy who works at the registry, who kind of looks like Jordan Peterson, also cracked me up. But it's a movie that I very much enjoyed upon rewatch. It was the last thing I saw leaving 2022. I put it on after watching White Noise, and it was a good way to finish start the new year.
Yeah, I get you. This was my number 13, but since we just talked about how we're going to try to get the conversation out as soon as possible, but this is basically, I feel the same way you did, but I also just really ended up thinking about how this movie is kind of the same way we talked about a director kind of looking back at their life. And I think in a weird Cronenbergian way, this is Cronenberg looking back at his life and just kind of giving it that weird twisted element that he's kind of known for. Maybe not as bloody as was promoted or maybe thought would be, but I do think that I really liked how it commented on just the artist's world and even like making fun of the performance dancers. I really did enjoy the conversation this movie created. And yeah, I'm just really happy we're still getting Cronenberg, at least the dad's movie still.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait for Infinity Pool.
Exactly.
I didn't think about this until right now, but I guess I wasn't expecting this to be a reflection film. I was expecting it to be just a modern take on what Cronenberg was already doing. But I do think because he's had such a long space of time between his last work and now that it was Cosmopolis with Robert Pattinson. I do think that he's probably just had time to reflect and look over things, and even the fact that he reused the name of a movie he's already made, I feel like that is just another way of him kind of like rewriting his story. Maybe not one last time, but there's a new era of Cronenberg, and this is hopefully ushering it in and not the tail end of something.
Yeah, I agree. I hope so as well.
So what's your number 16?
My number 16 is the one that we did on my birthday, which ironically December 16th is On the Count of Three. So we did an episode on that. If you guys need to go check it out. If you guys haven't heard, it's Gerard Carmichael's directorial debut. It's just ended up really enjoying it. Go check out the episode.
That'll take me to 15, which is also another episode that we've already done, but it's a movie I loved very much, and I thought it would be higher actually, but it was such a good year that it ended up at 15, and that's Zach Cregger's Barbarian. One of the most fun movies I've seen all year, one of the best twists I've seen in a very long time, at least in my opinion. I know for some people it's totally where the movie goes downhill. I was telling you off pod that I didn't think it warranted the Malignant comparisons. Yeah. It's just that there was, two gonzo, wacko movies that had pretty ridiculous twist halfway through them that they kind of, feel like companion pieces. They would probably be really fun to watch back to back, to be honest. It'd be one fucked up night watching horror movies, Yeah. But Barbarian, one of the more fun movies I've seen all year. A nice directorial debut, and I can't wait to see more of what Zach Cregger does. So check out the episode, check out the movie. It's on HBO Max. Don't be scared. Mama will comfort you.
I will say it's funny, or to think that it could have been at one point number one for you, and it did drop that much. I just think that kind of complements the year. But it's interesting that it depends on what mood you're in during like a certain month, right? You're like, this is the coolest movie I've seen all year.
The rest of my list, a few of them are movies I saw after, and there isn't as many that I saw before it.
I see. Yeah. That's just what ends up happening.
Yeah. So what about you for 15?
So number 15, actually, is I was lucky enough to go be able to watch EO, which is an international film as well for Jerzy Skolimowski, I think is the way to say it. Sorry,
I'm sure that's it.
Polish, yeah. Very interesting, very beautiful film about life in the eyes of a donkey. Kind of reminded me, I thought it was funny that we brought it up, the whole Twitter joke about the life through the eyes of a pigeon.
Oh, it's like Film Bros want you to watch a movie,
A Soviet
era film that takes place through the eyes of a pigeon. It's like 7 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. And like this is kind of a joke. It's not that long though. It's only 88 minutes. A culmination of that. It's not exactly through the donkey's eyes the whole time, but I did find it interesting that I think a little niche that everybody kind of likes, but for some reason the movies are, I hate using the word, but they're cringe, is movies with animals and kind of like the love that exists between humans and animals. But to an international take on this subject matter was really interesting here because I have a lot of love obviously for in Banshees of Inisherin. There's also a donkey. For some reason, very, very smart animals, and I didn't really know how much emotion they could really show. So EO, definitely a film worth checking out. I'm sure probably it would be something that you would like too. Probably end up when I don't know when it come out a major release, but it'll be a good one to watch.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out because my favorite reply to that joke about the Soviet era film is that it sounds awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm definitely down to see EO. I have just not had a chance yet, but I mean, if you watched it, I'm pretty sure that means there's a way for me to watch it as well. So I'll definitely be checking that out soon. Hey, who knows? Maybe that'll get an episode, its own episode.
Yeah.
And the thing you said about the you didn't want to call it cringe, but the idea of the animal movies being kind of too sentimental and sappy or whatever.
Yeah, like they feel
that's an online opinion for sure, because every so often there is one of these animal movies that really takes off. I mean, damn, this year we had Dog, it might have been last year, but Dog, that Channing Tatum movie where he's a veteran and he's trying to take the dog back to the funeral of his original owner. That movie made $85 million on a $15 million budget. So
no, yeah,
that's a mainstream movie audience type of genre that we just that's not a Film Bro thing.
Yeah, but I will say that's my opinion on it though, is that it is always touching, like that's a general base that you're gonna get people to watch for, but they're not really ever artistically done. And EO kind of does that in a way where, like, again, I kind of brought up the cinematography for just making it look amazing for no reason. I think this film does that, and also it does not look as cheap as its budget you would think that it is. Mm-hmm. So I was just really blown away. This is, like you said, up in this list. Like, this movie I thought about could have been easily at the higher up my list, but it's just a good year for film, honestly.
Nice. So that'll take me to that was your 15, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that'll take me to my 14, which is Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Nice.
Once again, won't go on too long about this, but Daniel Radcliffe gave the comedy for performance of the year. I know that I had a lot of choices to pick from, but this was the funniest movie for sure. There's nothing else really like it. I don't want to say ever, but anymore. If you think Weird Al meets Walk Hard, right?
Yeah.
But even funnier, to be honest. And it's just a fucking great, hilarious movie that I won't spend the next 5 to 10 minutes quoting, but I definitely think you should check out. It's for free on Roku, so that's one way to watch it. And Alvaro, I mean, I liked this episode. I liked the episode we did a lot. How did you feel about the movie now that you've had a little more time to sit on it? Is it as funny as you remember?
No, yeah, it is. I was just thinking about whenever you bring it up, I think even it's made me really think that it should be somewhere in here. But again, it's just such a good year. But I really enjoyed that film. I think you're right in terms of the comedy. None of the films that we've talked about, and even something like The Banshees, is funny, but it's not that type of funny.
No.
And it
this
does
is
seem
slapstick. Comedy.
Yeah, I mean, we have Jack Black, and a lot of I just think it's a culmination of kind of like that era's comedy, which I don't think exists very much. But I think it's to see someone like Daniel Radcliffe, who does very selective roles, do such a good job here. I think it's a highly underrated movie, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Slide in Jack Black for best supporting actor for that one scene that he's in.
Yeah, I love it.
What's your 14?
My number 14 is something we previously talked about in the episode, so it's Babylon.
Okay.
Like I said, we just talked about it. So
No need to go on much more.
yeah, I feel like I got all my thoughts out there, but definitely in it for Damien Chazelle's like ambition for now from now on.
That'll take me to my 13, which is X from Ty West. Another one of these really fun movies we saw this year. That's obviously going to be a recurring theme for me always, is going to be how much fun I had watching a movie. Yeah, I thought Mia Goth, just top tier performance, which is, cemented by Pearl, but I actually think that X is the better performance because she's doing the two roles. Jenna Ortega, we stan as always.
Always.
Right? And yeah, I just had a lot of fun with X. I feel like it's one of those slasher films that I'll watch for many years. I don't want to go so far as to be like, it's this era's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's obviously taking so much from that film.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see the love for it right there. I don't think Ty West is hiding that. And just wonderful performances all around. I thought Kid Cudi had some hilarious moments, as always. And I like the world that was set up. And I also think that X is the better film than Pearl, like I had mentioned earlier.
Agreed.
And it's because it was the intended product. Pearl is kind of, well, if I can slide this in there, why not? But yeah, I mean, I think X is the better film, and I think you agree with that as well.
Yeah, this is number 5 for me, so I heavily agree with what you're saying. I think it's going to be my my slasher film of I feel like my generation of watching films that I go to for years. I have like I think I said this to you off pod. I have like 3 favorite slashers, I would say now, and it's like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Black Christmas, and it's X. So nice. I think, again, this is one we did an episode on, so we're preaching to the choir, but definitely I enjoyed this movie. I love this movie. It's a subgenre that I don't necessarily always think is my favorite, even though I can enjoy most of them, but I don't think they're necessarily very good. But I'm glad that I have my 3 slashers now where I'm like, okay, I understand why you guys love this so much.
For me, X was in the top 5 at one point, but like I said, there was just so many good movies that came out that it got bumped a little. No hate to X, it's top 10 worthy, but I just, there were some more things that tickled me this year.
I get you.
So why don't you go ahead and tell me what your 13 was?
So 13 was, because we just kind of slightly touching over it, because a little back we talked about it, it's Crimes of the Future.
Okay.
So again, I love Cronenberg, so that one's probably could have been higher again, like you're saying, but there's a lot of good films.
Nice.
I'm going to keep saying.
12 is going to take me to The Northman, Robert Eggers' third film. I loved this movie. I think it was also a top 5er at one point. I think in 2021, if you would have asked me, I think The Northman would have been my favorite movie. It was the one I was the most excited for, even more than The Batman or Nope or anything like that. But once I saw it, I really liked it, but then the second and third time really solidified for me that I was like, no, okay, I really, really like this movie, because I guess I was still expecting some of the things that Robert Eggers had done in his previous 2 films, but this was a big departure from those 2, and I also think that he delivered on what was promised from the trailers and the things that he had talked about before. Maybe we were still expecting a little misdirection because it's Robert Eggers, but I don't see anything wrong with him kind of going a different route and trying something new. This is not like a Robert Eggers movie. This is more like a John Boorman / Ridley Scott's Gladiator type movie. And I think it's phenomenal. Alexander Skarsgård gave one of the most primal, bestial performances I've seen put to film, and it's something I won't forget for a very long time. A lot of the imagery in the film too, I thought was right up his alley of like what he's known for. I thought the Viking like ritual dances. I thought the scene where he's speaking to the skull and he sees like the visions of how the sword was made, just stuff like that. It's like, I still think that's where you can like pin it, like, okay, that's Robert Eggers. But I'm just excited to see more of what he does in the future. I know Nosferatu is back in production, or it's got that green light to go ahead. And yeah, man, I mean, Robert Eggers, what's there to say, man? We all know how we feel about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was my 12, The Northman.
Okay. My 12 is Decision to Leave.
Nice.
So when we also did an episode on an incredibly just, I would say, cool movie, honestly. But I mean, the director's kind of known for that, Park Chan-wook. Yeah, I mean, what is there more to say? I think this will probably get a lot of love in the international Oscars. It'll obviously get nominated. It has a chance to win. I really enjoyed the story here of just, messing things up because she's so hot. So yeah, I mean, check this film out if you're into international films. I think this film goes hard.
Yeah, I mean, I have this as my 10, I believe. Let me double check that. But I don't have too much more to say. Or no, it's my 9. So I'll save a little more of what I have to say for that. But I honestly hope that one day this movie is looked at the way that In the Mood for Love is looked at, as in just kind of a. I don't want to say that In the Mood for Love was like a forgotten film, but just that reclamation, people being like, no, this is one of the best films of that time. I'm sure that's not the most controversial opinion within the world of film, but how much more of a boost did In the Mood for Love get once those memes and pictures and things like that started going around, that those kind of films that people find. And, with an international film, it's always going to have a small hurdle to climb with American audiences and things like that. Exactly. But I think once you open yourself up to it, it's like Bong Joon-ho said, man, don't let 1 inches of subtitles get in the way of, missing out on these entire worlds that you have no clue about.
Yeah.
So yeah, Decision to Leave, fucking amazing film.
Agreed.
Yeah. That was your 12, you said?
Yes.
Okay, so that'll take me to 11. Big Jim is back. Avatar: The Way of Water. You can never doubt this man. He just he builds it and the people come. 3 films within the $1 billion range. The only other two people who are sniffing that is the Russo brothers with Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame. I don't know how I didn't know how I was going to feel going into the movie like a year ago or so. I was wondering, I'm like, is this going to be good, or is this really just going to be the same thing? Or, how far could this technology have really been pushed in that time? And all of my doubts or worries were washed away, much like the water does. And Big Jim delivered. I thought this was substantially better than the first Avatar film. I think that film is kind of more rightfully judged when you hear like the criticisms of it, especially because it's from 2009, for God's sakes. That's a very long time ago already. So much has changed in the world of effects and technology. I don't know for better or worse for the most part, but it's so different now. And I thought that he still understands like how to like swoon an audience, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's one of the great things that he does is he entertains, and he does it on a level that not many other directors really do it on. I can think of a handful, being like Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve. There was another one I wanted to say that I'm trying to think of, but it slipped my mind right now. But whether James Cameron is the best or worst of that group of directors is always going to be up for debate. I mean, obviously, I don't think he's one, but he's working on a level that very few other directors are working at, and it's being able to do whatever you want. And obviously, Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve are making better films, but I can really appreciate what James Cameron does. I really enjoyed the middle hour of this movie, all that stuff with Sigourney Weaver as a teenager, which just sounds so weird when you say it out loud, right?
Yeah.
It's de-aging, but not really. It's just de-aging someone's voice and their mannerisms, not just how Robert De Niro was in The Irishman, where they tried to make him look 20, 30 years younger. I thought that was the best performance of the film. I thought the third act was, phenomenal action set piece filmmaking, much like what he's known for. Just reaffirming that he's great at making action. And Avatar: The Way of Water. Really enjoyed this film a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I think you brought up like the Russo brothers, right? Like those are the directors that. It's funny, those are the directors I really compare him to, because that's because Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve don't sniff the money that this guy sniffs. like in terms of revenue with people. And I think you kind of talked about Channing Tatum's Dog movie like that. Like to me, these are the type of films that resonate with people. And it's interesting that he still knows how to kind of get that kind of crowd for these movies. I mean, you can't doubt it. He has the money to show for it. But I do think the films that it gets compared to would be something like Infinity War, right? Or the multiverse of, or like a lot of the Marvel movies, a lot of Disney's other movies, because those are the movies that kind of it sits with. So it is interesting to hear, I guess, the comparison between Denis Villeneuve and then James Cameron in there, and then also like Christopher Nolan, because like to me those don't mesh at all.
Well, I say this because there's an interview with Denis Villeneuve and James Cameron where they are talking about how they are similar filmmakers. So, I mean, they themselves see it that way. I don't feel like that was I don't know, maybe that's some forced promotional stuff, but he interviewed, James Cameron interviewed Denis Villeneuve for Dune. And they were talking, like the conversation was about like how they both have pushed the boundaries of filmmaking. And, that's why I bring that up.
Oh, I mean, in that aspect, I mean, yeah, but I don't know if the approaches to the film would be exactly the same as
not.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about pushing the boundaries of filmmaking.
Yeah, in that aspect, of course, they make the same type of film, but they don't make the same type of film. And I mean, I don't think that's a hot take. I think we can agree on that, though.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. So that moves us to what, number 11? That was your number 11?
Yeah.
So for me, it's Bardo, which is one that I think we had kind of talked about.
Bardo's my 8.
Yeah, we talked about kind of standing for that, even though a lot of people do not like this movie. Really always have love for the 3 Mexican directors that have really made history, honestly, over here in the United States. Bardo, I really thought, I think I told you when have we talked about this off pod or on the pod? I don't remember. But Bardo does remind me of a lot of Tarkovsky's work in Mirror, and I think that may be something kind of like similar to Damien Chazelle's Babylon, where people are like, you're already making this. And I think it's kind of just shows his ambition, and I think whether that delivers for some people or not, I don't know, but I think the fact that the kind of point of view that it's coming from isn't something I really get too much. So I think that is something that I appreciated a lot with this film, and this film could find itself higher as well, like 8 with how you said. I just really enjoyed it. I know it's really long, but I had just a lot of it's been sitting in my head,
Almost all of my favorite movies this year were long. Almost all of them were 3 hours.
Yeah,
this
there's a lot of 3-hour
covered
movies
by long movies than it is short ones. I mean, for God's sakes, even Jackass was 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, there's a lot of long movies this year.
The Northman was long. Avatar was long. The Batman was long. So Bardo, like you said, I think the only reason people don't like this movie is because of the length, the pretentious storytelling, the fact that Alejandro Inarritu is a pretentious director. Although I think it's warranted. People, maybe not so much because of the box office and things like that, but he's a very well-regarded director. So now to see him be considered pretentious by the people who lifted him up to this status in the first place, I could see why a movie like this comes about. And, he vents a lot of frustrations in this film. It's an extremely personal film, but it takes a different approach from something like The Fabelmans or Belfast or anything like that. It's like if Steven Spielberg made a movie about his life instead of making a movie about his childhood,
Yeah.
Like if Sammy Fabelman was 45 years old trying to make Jurassic Park. So I really enjoyed the movie, and I know we were throwing around Tarkovsky or whatever, and it's like that's basically doing the same thing that we just did with the James Cameron and Denis Villeneuve thing. But I can appreciate the attempt, much like I do with Babylon, of like, good for you that you were like, I'm gonna try to make something that is not really made anymore, or is going to be like, in this case of Bardo, like I'm going to make something extremely artistic and extremely snobby and pretentious, and it's because it's what I want to see in the world. And it's just kind of it's not a film that's going to be approached, I think, fairly because of who he is.
I will say I thought this movie was pretty funny too.
Yeah, but not in the same way as like some of the other films we've talked about,
right?
Because it's so pretentious, because it's so snobby,
But the way he does poke fun of himself and his thoughts and what he is, a lot of it's probably I'm losing the word here, but it's problems that he has with himself. A lot of the things he questions about himself, he kind of makes fun of himself in the movie.
I just won 2 Oscars in a row, but I don't have the respect.
Yeah, so I that's where I think the movie really stood out to me, and like you said, it's just a really artistic movie.
So that takes us to 10, correct? So 11 Bardo, 11 Avatar. My number 10 was The Batman. At one point, this was the number 2 movie on my list. How many times have you seen this movie? I've seen this movie like at least 6 or 7 times.
8.
Yeah,
8 times.
Exactly. This was never not going to be one of my favorite movies of the year. When I had a concrete list of 10, I was excluding The Batman because I wanted to give space to something else that maybe needed a boost. I don't think The Batman is lacking any respect on this podcast. I mean, we did an episode on it. We snuck it into another episode.
Yeah, like 3 episodes.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I think there was like 3 episodes where we talked about The Batman. Yeah, so one of my favorite movies of the year. I think this is another one of those movies that is helping push the boundaries of filmmaking. Maybe you don't see it that way because of the noir, gritty, grungy aspect of Gotham. But I'm talking about the technology of how they did it with those big giant LED screens and the practical effects and stuff like that. This was another breath of fresh air for blockbuster filmmaking. Matt Reeves is a very well-seasoned blockbuster director now. He's made some of my other favorite big movies, which is the Planet of the Apes movies. And I never doubted for a second that this would be great, but man, oh man, the first 5 minutes it started, wasn't it so great to know that you were in good hands? I'll never forget that first viewing. It was special moment. Every Batman movie is something I'll never forget when I seen it for the first time. And I'm just glad that I finally have, my Batman. I never really felt too connected to the Christian Bale Batman, although those movies are, outstanding. They're some of the great movies of the past 20 years, but this is for me. This is my Batman. This is my Gotham. It's not a world I'd want to live in by any means. I'd much rather live on Pandora. But I just love seeing this world come to life, and I love the different aspects of it. And another great detective movie. There was a few detective movies on our list, right?
Yeah.
And this is one of them. Paul Dano, come on, blew it out of the park, man. This and his role in The Fabelmans, what a great year, not just him and Colin Farrell. There was a couple of actors who've had some really good years, but man, oh man, The Batman, pure cinema.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. This still does sit at my number 2. This was everything I could have wanted from the film and more. Like you said, wasn't there for the opening of any of the Batmans for Christopher Nolan, so I didn't have any of the feeling like that towards it. But I was here on day one. I will be here for the following films there on day one, and I think that's where a lot of the affinity comes from. Yeah, I think it's closest to. I've always talked about how I really like Batman Beyond in terms of the way that he kind of is in the stage of this film and in this universe. I think kind of reflects a lot of what I would have wanted from a film like that. So this is right up my alley. Like you said, we talked about this film so much.
Maybe the most talked about movie on the podcast.
I watched it 8 times on Letterboxd, but it is also in their year review was the most watched film in the community. So I don't feel any special by doing that. I think like you said, everybody agrees this is one of the best films of the year.
Definitely. So why don't you go ahead and tell me what your number 10 is?
Number 10 for me is actually probably some people's worst movie they've seen all year, but it's Blonde, which is interestingly, I understand the issues people have with the film, particularly me. Like, I'm not really an Andrew Dominik fan, I would say. I have seen a couple of his films and thought they were okay. But Blonde, I know, kind of based off of the book, that is kind of a lot of the things that aren't true about Marilyn Monroe's life. And I think this is one of the best performances by an actress of the year. Ana de Armas really shows a lot of emotion here, and I think it's really hard to portray someone as a tragic character like Marilyn Monroe. But I think the cinematography here is just some of the favorite that I've seen in a long time. I think it almost looks like just moving still images throughout the whole film. I have a lot of like issues with the CGI baby that everybody's been talking about, but besides that, I do think that the film really does evoke the spirit of the book, which is kind of really laying her out as the tragic character that she was. And also, by the way of, I think the book kind of intent is this, to give you moments that have almost seem ridiculous compared to moments that were real, and has you really thinking that a character like this, you wouldn't be able to know what she actually really did, because you have these expectations or things you think you know of her, even though nobody or very few people actually knew her. So Blonde, really enjoyed this film.
I haven't seen this film, but I would agree with you from the imagery I have seen that it's beautiful. Interestingly enough, the things I have read about Andrew Dominik in this film is that's the thing that he was the most interested in. It's almost like he used this story or this person as an excuse to just recreate or enhance these iconic images and kind of bring them to life how he imagined them in his head. And I think that's probably really successful from all the stuff I have seen. It's moving. It's very striking and moving images that do look photorealistic. They really do look like a fairy tale or a fantasy.
Exactly.
But I was not interested in this movie because I'm not the biggest, Marilyn Monroe person. It's not like I have any negative feelings towards her. She's just never really caught my attention in a way that she has of so many others. But I figured this wasn't the place to start because it's, a fictional story about a real person by a director who doesn't really seem to have liked the subject of his film. I saw a very interesting back and forth that he had in an interview with Christina Newland. She's a writer in the UK, and he was like calling her like she's like a whore, right? And like you could tell like he never really looked into, well, if he did really look into this person and the way that like she's a tragic character, he didn't convey it in this interview or in any of the other things I saw about her. So I don't know, maybe for me it was just kind of weird to watch a movie about somebody that was made by someone who doesn't really seem to like her.
I think that's funny. I thought that was an ironic reply that he was giving to like that whole interview.
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, it's in text, so you could take it how you want to take it, but that's not how I took it, at least.
Yeah.
So I didn't, it was weird to me to want to watch a movie that was made by someone who didn't really seem to like the character, or she's not a character. She's a person. She was a person, but it is something I've just kind of been like dancing around, like, I know I'll watch this one day, but it wasn't a big hurry. But I have heard wonderful things about Ana de Armas's performance. I feel like she can do no wrong in the eyes of all film goers.
You brought that up with Deepwater, right?
Yeah. I mean, I loved her in that. So I'm sure that was not her best performance of the year. I'm sure it was this. And the makeup and set design and hairstyling and all that, just top tier, I feel like that is not talked about enough. Maybe what has been talked about too much is all of this discourse about the director and the book that it was based on or whatever. But if you want to find the positive, I would say the set design, the production design, the hair, the makeup, the costuming, all of that should get some kind of recognition this award season. So even though I haven't seen it, I can still see a lot of the positives of why it would be so high on your list.
Yeah. I mean, again, Ana de Armas love, which is no secret here.
That was your 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my 9 is the one we've already talked about in heavy detail, is Decision to Leave, so I won't go on too much further about that. But yeah, please check out this movie. Fucking sick. I think it's on Mubi, correct? Was it Mubi?
Yeah.
One of those that was giving it away for free. Mm-hmm. So yeah, check this movie out. Definitely one of the best. You like Hitchcock? You like De Palma? You want a cookie? Be like, go ahead. So go ahead with your 9.
He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Park Chan-wook. Okay, it's
Park
fine.
Chan-wook.
Park Chan-wook, sorry. Number 9 is one that could argue is probably the best film of the year. I could definitely see her, like I said before, I could see her taking Best Actress. Is Tar for me. Just a phenomenal.
Tar at number 9?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have Tar at 7. So go ahead.
Okay, so phenomenal film. Obviously, we did an episode on this film. I think to really be able to interestingly cover the world of music making, a composer's life, something he kind of funnily enough brought up Amadeus in this episode. It is something that I'm really always interested in. So to see kind of like a drama unfold from this point of view was really interesting. I think Cate Blanchett gives one of the best performances in her career. And yeah, go check out the episode. I think we've gloated enough about this film. I think this movie is still, even though it's highly regarded in the right places, I think it's still very underrated.
Yeah, it's not an easy movie to want to get the average person to watch.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best. So they'd be missing out if you didn't want to see it. In the words of Martin Scorsese, when he saw Tar, the clouds lifted.
Yeah.
Cinema was saved for at least one day. And, Papa Scorsese's right as always, man. Tar is a fucking phenomenal film. But I will, I'll save a little bit more for when I get to Tar.
Got it.
So that takes us to 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my 8 was Bardo, like we had already previously mentioned. Loved the attempt. I think he's of the correct age to make a movie like this where he's reflecting on his life. Alejandro Inarritu is no spring chicken.
Yeah.
A funny thing I had saw about the movie was I was watching the THR Directors Roundtable that came out a few days ago, and he was included in it, and he was talking about a moment that he had shared with Mike Nichols when he was making Birdman, and he's like, I never made a comedy before, and you made The Graduate and so many of these great comedy films that you must be the guy, right? Like, I'm going to talk to you about this movie. And he's like, I walked him through the whole thing. I told him everything, and he's like, Alejandro, please don't do this. You're running towards disaster. And I feel like that is how Alejandro Inarritu's career has been seen in the past maybe decade at least now, because of The Revenant and Birdman in this movie. But I think it's I don't want to say brave, because he's a very well-known, well-liked director who's won a ton of awards. It's not brave, but I love that he's taking the turn of like, I'm going to start running towards disaster and making the movies that people keep telling me I shouldn't make. And why the hell not? I do find that to be artistically brave, at least, that he's not choosing to do, Alfonso Cuarón has like a Gravity every once in a while. He's done a Harry Potter movie. Guillermo del Toro has taken a bag once or twice in his career, Yeah. And I think Alejandro Inarritu does it in a way that is not financially feasible. he's making the weirdest movies that he can, and whether they're pretentious, not pretentious, whatever, that's for everyone to decide. But I love that the guy is making movies, and we keep comparing it to Babylon, but I felt like those were two of the movies this year that took these big swings of like, willingly and purposefully, it's like, I want to change cinema, and whether they do or not, they most likely won't. I can appreciate the effort.
I think what I loved about this is that he has all this prestige, right? And then Netflix is like, we'll give you anything you want for money. He's like, perfect. I'm going to drop what nobody wanted me to make. And I'm going to use your money to make it. Instead of when nobody cares and I don't have that much money to make it, I'm going to make the best possible version of this where I could use, a CGI baby and stuff like that. I love it. I love using the money for that, knowing that who's going to really watch this. I think it's Oscar bait, was what somebody would call it, but I just enjoyed the ambition.
What made me laugh was the scene where he's talking to his dad, and he's like
the
young version of himself with the big head. With the big head.
Yeah.
I've been, I got Peacock recently, so they have George Lopez on there, and
he's done that a couple times.
Yeah. George Lopez, of him as an adult with the little body.
It's so
it was
funny.
So bad. That scene was like not the scene itself, but the
that
this
effect,
is where you're like, wow, they're letting you do whatever you want, huh?
Exactly.
But that's great. Good. Bring me more of that. These big swings don't always have to be successful to be enjoyable. Like it's more enjoyable to watch a disaster like that than it is to watch, I don't know, a dog or whatever.
A straightforward film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very formulaic.
Yeah,
filmmaking.
exactly. Give me the non-formula, So yeah, that was Bardo, my number 8. What about you?
My number 8 is The Banshees of Inisherin.
Ooh, this is my number 3.
Yeah. What an outstanding film. We did another one that we did an episode on. It's probably going to start getting in the range of, we've obviously very gloated heavily enough about these movies throughout the year, but we can't really gloat enough about this movie. I think what a film that really isn't about anything that should be too deep, but is very deep. Just beautiful set pieces here. Colin Farrell had his year this year, but I think him and the chemistry between Brendan Gleeson, and then also the actress, I don't have the name at the top of my head, but his sister in the film, and also Barry Keoghan, I just think is a very powerful cast. I could definitely see this getting Colin Farrell Best Actor, honestly.
Is that what you want? Are you ready to admit what you want?
I think that's, yeah. I think
me too.
That is what I want. I think he's had like you said, him and Paul Dano had a really good year. Paul Dano will have, I think, his moment. I think he's built up a really impressive career so far, but I think Colin Farrell deserves to have, for the same reason.
Well, here's the thing. I don't want to cut you off, but I believe that Paul Dano and Michelle Williams are going to be supporting actors, even though they're really not. The Fablemans, for half that movie, they're the main character. Sammy is an observer until they move to Arizona.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's true.
So, not to get too technical about it or whatever, but I think he's going to be a Best Supporting Actor, and I do think he will win for that, even though it should be like someone like Ke Quan or Brendan Gleeson. So, I do think the pathway is there for Colin Farrell to finally get an Oscar. But, there's one big whale standing in his way, so who knows?
Ooh, that's true.
You never know, man. Brendan Fraser, the awards are racking up, so who knows? But I think that The Banshees of Inisherin is a better movie, and I think the performance is of Colin Farrell. Not to compare these two movies, but I'm just saying in terms of the acting, which is where they will be compared. I think Colin Farrell's performance is much better than Brendan Fraser's performance in The Whale. So, on terms of who should get the Best Actor, give it to my boy Colin Farrell.
Just think, how can you play somebody who's so lovable? I mean, those eyebrows, man. Colin Farrell, just so much. He's a master.
Here we fucking go again.
Oh my faking! You're all faking boring.
So that was your number 8, correct?
Yep.
Okay, so now we're to number 7. Linda Cardellini from Staten Island.
Cardellini.
Tar. Just what a film! What a film! Todd Field, please make more movies.
Coming out of nowhere.
Don't make us wait this long. Yeah. And this is another one for me where I don't think that this is this is already the consensus is that it's going to be Cate Blanchett or Michelle Yeoh. And this is a coin flip for me. I would not be disappointed either way. Honestly.
Correct. Me too.
I think that this is a win either way, that these two are the front runners for these awards, because the two movies couldn't be any more different.
Exactly.
So yeah, Tar. I mean, watch the episode if you really want to know what we think about it, but it's phenomenal. And it's a vegetables of a film, you know what I mean? If you're going to compare something like Avatar to, cotton candy, like sugar distilled to just pure sugar. This is like a well roasted piece of broccoli.
A casserole.
Yeah, no, man, a casserole would be an unhealthy food posing as a healthy food.
Oh, right. Yeah. Correct. You're right.
So
this is really good.
This is really good vegetables. This is the best vegetables you've ever had, man. So yeah, check out Tar. That's my number 7.
My number 7 is, I think I brought this up during the summer episode. Still seems very not talked about too much. What of another A24 movie? It's Owen Klein's Funny Pages. I really enjoyed this film. I think the direction of it really reminds me of a lot of my favorite stuff from the Safdie brothers. Ironically enough,
it's an Alara picture, is it
production. Not? Yeah, it's an Alara production. I thought it's one of those films that everything I kind of like about On the Count of Three kind of taken to another top notch once putting the cares of somebody who just I think the acting here is really phenomenal, and like I don't really expect that when I watched it. I really like the subject matter here of comics. I really like asshole characters who
he's literally me
get what they deserve, but then also the kind of how the movie's able to get you in their mind frame and get you to understand their this insane
their point of view.
This insane drive to want to become something. And I think a lot of Elara's approach to storytelling kind of captures that heavy tension really well. And this is still one of the films I really enjoyed this year. So that's my number 7.
Nice. I have not seen that movie. You've put a couple of films on here that I would consider like micro movies, not because they're not big budget movies, but because they're like these really small indies, but that like hardly anyone has heard of. And not that Funny Pages, because it's an A24 movie, is like a nothing movie, but I felt like it had a promotional push for the 2 weeks that it was in theaters, and that since then it's kind of, where is this movie? I don't see you prancing it around the way you did Bodies, 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 or maybe some of their other films of the year.
Right.
And I feel like maybe it's underrated even from A24, because you seem to enjoy this film quite a bit. But, can I get an ad for it somewhere? Can I, how do I watch this movie? I'm sure the answer is renting it. But, if you enjoyed it so much, I take your word for it that it would probably be worth a promotional push at some point,
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like they're happy with this movie, kind of just, okay, we made it, let it disappear into the ether. But hopefully you and the other 12 people who saw this, the hive will grow stronger every day.
True.
Yeah, so Funny Pages, check it out, man. I can't wait to see it. I just haven't got around to it yet because there's so many damn movies. My number 6 would be the A24 movie that was probably the most pushed, and that is Everything Everywhere All at Once. At one point in the year, this was my favorite movie of the year. But like I said, so many other great movies have come out. I do still believe that this is one of the great films of all time. I know I said that when we did the episode, but it really is. And I've had a long time, 6 to 7 months to think about it, right? But much like The Batman, it's the movie I've seen the most this year. I've showed it to the most people. I've spread the word. You need to go see this to people who are not on Twitter. But it's a phenomenal film, and I hope Michelle Yeoh gets that Best Actress, if not Cate Blanchett. Like I said, I don't care who wins, but it would be cooler if Michelle Yeoh won, because with Cate Blanchett, that'd be like LeBron winning MVP again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once. Relax. Yeah, it's not the worst movie you've ever seen. And, if you said it wasn't the best movie you ever seen, I understand. I'm not going to sit here and act like it's a perfect movie. It's not by any means, but it's just right up my alley. And it's one of those films that I'm sure glad I was there when it came out, because I hope in 20 years when people are digging through the crates and like, what came out in 2020s, that this is one of those ones that's like, oh, what the hell is this? Which is, I kind of think is the status that it was destined for, but it hit at the right time and it became a major movie. It's one of the big movies of the year.
Yeah. This is my number 1, so probably save more of that for then. I mean, we did the episode on it too, but I'll probably save more for that.
So why don't you go ahead and give me your 6 then?
My number 6 it's funnily enough another film that I don't think much people saw, but it's Official Competition with Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek.
Well, on the other side of the globe, yes. Probably.
Yeah. This film is thankfully a 2021 release, but it got its major release here in 2022, whatever that means.
Its major release as in 10 theaters maybe?
Yeah. I mean, I did see this at our local Edwards, which is interesting. Didn't show for too long. Obviously, nobody really cares about this here. But I do really enjoy Spanish insults, and I think there's a lot of them here. I think it's one of the best satires I've seen in a long time. I think it does everything the Triangle of Sadness tried to do in a more funny and experienced way. I will say, obviously, you have Salma Hayek and Antonio Banderas here.
Wait, it's not Penelope Cruz?
Oh, Penelope Cruz. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's Penelope Cruz. I'm thinking Puss in Boots. Sorry.
That's not the best Antonio Banderas movie of the year?
I mean, like, No, well, not to me. Maybe it's everybody else, but not to me. But I will say,
genuinely puzzled for like half a second.
Yeah, it's like Antonio Banderas is in this movie. I think is the big difference for me. But which I think is something I haven't seen a lot anymore. I don't think he really gets too many, or maybe he doesn't choose too many serious roles over here, or does he really be given too many of them?
America's where he gets the bag. Spain is where he makes the real movies.
Yeah, but I think this is just a really good expose of acting. And yeah, this will probably get no love anywhere, but I really enjoyed this film.
Nice. So my number 5 could have easily been my number 1, but it's After Sun. Uh, great film. Wonderful debut by Charlotte Wells. She herself is starting to rack up some awards here and there. So let's see what that means for After Sun. I've also seen that Paul Mescal is kind of coming up second or third in everybody's voting for actor or best actor, and I think that's warranted as well. Yeah, not much more to say about this movie that I haven't already said. I've only seen this twice now, so I feel like I need more time to kind of grapple with how I'm going to feel, excuse me, with how I feel going forward. But yeah, I don't have too much more to say. Just, man, that under pressure dance scene at the end is just one of the most heartbreaking things I saw all year. And this is a worthy movie of a 5 spot.
Yeah. It's number 4 for me, so
Nice.
definitely agree.
What I wanted to say when I did Everything Everywhere All at Once was that from 6 to 1, I noticed there was a recurring theme of all these movies being about family or very close friends who would be considered family. And I kind of wasn't expecting that to happen in the beginning of the year, but things change, I guess, the older you get and when you become a parent, that all my favorite movies had to do with family or friends.
I guess
Like
so.
at their center. That's what they're really about. But yeah, anyways, number 5, After Sun.
Number 5 for me is X, which you kind of talked about a little before. So I'll just kind of fast touch on it. Yeah, one of my favorite slashers, I think, ever. I just had a lot of fun with this film. I think the whole cast really shows out here. There's a lot of character importance to everybody who's in this film, which I think isn't something that usually is really given in a lot of slashers. So I think this is just well taken care of, and I'm here for the universe, man. I'm glad Ty West made something that I feel is personally for me.
Yeah, nice. Give me Maxine already. I can't wait. I have a feeling that might be my favorite one. My number 4 is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, a movie that I could have not been any less excited for when I had heard about this. Pinocchio is not really my favorite story, and maybe that's just because I know the Disney version of the story, and I never really cared for that one either. Really freaked me out as a kid, to be honest. But Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is my favorite piece of animation of the year. I think the stop motion was just incredible and taken to a whole nother level that, not to disrespect anybody else, but to a level that I haven't seen before. It was so seamless and so well done that for many moments in the film, I forgot I was watching stop motion, and I felt like I was watching drawings or CG animation that was meant to look like stop motion. Like, that's how just realistic it looked. And the story itself, just a beautiful story about a father and a son. And, Guillermo del Toro really knows how to do fairy tales. Like, there's no one who makes fairy tales better than Guillermo del Toro at the moment. And this feels like one of those films, much like The Shape of Water, that he was meant to make. As much as I love Nightmare Alley, I don't feel like Guillermo del Toro was the person who had to do that movie. I do feel that way about Pinocchio, and I'm surprised that for many years they haven't let him do these stories that he wants to tackle, because he's so fucking good at just making these like family films. I feel like a lot of his best films have family at the center of them, and yeah, I won't go on too much longer, but fucking love this movie. It's on Netflix. Check it out, man, especially if you want a new take on a character that you've known for a very long time. So that's my number 4. What about you?
My number 4 is After Sun. So like we kind of talked about, I really enjoyed this film. I think it's a master showing of what you don't see, what you feel. And I think that's one of the hardest approaches that you could have to filmmaking. A film that entirely maybe could mean nothing to the viewer, but means so much else to somebody who could be in a similar situation or even know somebody in a similar situation. Yeah, After Sun, just, again, really doing so much with so little. I think the fact that a lot of the VHS footage, for some, like we talked about in the episode, feels like very personal. And then Charlotte Webb's relationship.
Charlotte Wells.
Yeah,
Charlotte
Wells.
Webb's the book.
Yeah. The fact that it came out of a picture, I think that's kind of, just... It's one of the hardest, I think, approaches to filmmaking, and she just really pulled it off well, which is interesting to be able to make something so personal that could also speak to so many people.
this is another one of those micro movies that I just talked about, but I feel like this one has broken through. And I think it's because of what you said. She can do so much with so little. And that is just as worthy of applause and recognition as doing the most that you could possibly do. You know, the fact that she could do so much with just DV footage and and a film camera and this small story about a dad and his daughter. Just one of the most wonderful films of the year.
Yeah.
Definitely. That was your number 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 3 is one that we've talked about in detail. Is The Banshees of Inisherin. I won't go on too much more about it, but yes, Colin Farrell, give him the Oscar. Do it right now, right now. What about you for 3?
Number 3 for me is Nope.
Nice. This is my number 1.
I mean, I think Nope is the perfect blend of two things in cinema. I mean, deep story, filmmaking, and then also pushing the boundaries. I think Hoyte van Hoytema shot this movie outstandingly. I think the night shots in here are some of my favorite scenes ever. I mean, the cast here is... I could never get enough of Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer, somebody we find really funny. But the fact that she really takes an approach here that, I mean, I'm not too exposed to her other acting roles, so I just really enjoyed seeing her in this limelight. I just think it's excellent filmmaking. I think Jordan Peele can do no wrong. Anything he's produced, he's touched, I thoroughly have really enjoyed. So I can't gloat about this movie enough. I think we did the episode. It was one of the most fun episodes of the year. Yeah, man. I mean, Nope. Just an outstanding sci-fi film for me.
Yeah, that's definitely one where I'll never forget how I felt the first time I watched it, and the time I've watched it since then. It made me just appreciate it even more that I saw it in IMAX. That was really the just optimal way to see this film, and for me, this is Jordan Peele taking that step up into the level of directors that we were discussing with the Denis Villeneuves, the Christopher Nolans, the James Camerons, the Russo brothers, whoever, people who make movies on the highest level possible, and obviously to varying degrees of success and quality. But I think Jordan Peele is, he is him. You know what I mean? Like, he's taking that step to being the great director of his era, and I couldn't be happier that this is the guy, Yeah. I'll save that for a little later because I have even more to gloat about with this movie. Movies like Nope are like my version of a Messi fan acting like they personally accomplished something when he won the World Cup. You know what I mean? Where I'm like, my guy, like his win is my win. You know what I mean? And I'll save that. But so that was your number 3, right?
Yep.
Okay, so my number 2, and if this doesn't tell you everything you need to know about my, since my 1 has already been exposed, about what I love about movie making, it's The Fabelmans. So my 2 favorite movies of the year were a Steven Spielberg movie and a movie that took so much from Steven Spielberg and the type of filmmaking that he does. The Fabelmans is one of the most wonderful flops of all time. I think it's one of the best movies to flop the hardest that I can think of in recent memories. It's so weird now that we live in a world where Steven Spielberg is considered like not, he's not like an everyman. You know what I mean? Like people think of him as like, that's like highbrow stuff. Like that's amazing that we live in this world and not in the good way. But I thought there was wonderful performances all around in this movie. I thought it was a deeply, deeply personal film. One of the best cameos of the year, David Lynch as John Ford. That sticks with me every day I think about that. That was just so perfect, right? Nice little touch to end the movie. And one thing I felt like I didn't touch upon enough when we did the episode, but I wanted to bring it up now, was Gabriel LaBelle's performance as Sammy Fabelman. I almost called him Steven Spielberg. But his performance, I thought it was so good, and he embodied like that version of a young Spielberg so well that it did feel like kind of weird at moments. But I just thought it was a great performance, and I hope it gets the recognition. I would not be surprised if he sneaks in for Best Actor somewhere in there, because I think that he genuinely is the best part of the movie. So yeah, my number 2 was The Fabelmans.
Okay. Number 2. Okay, I'm at The Batman for number 2. talk about a culmination of something kind of already touched upon when it was your pick. What was it at for you? Like 10?
It was 10, yeah.
Yeah.
But it could have been 2. Between 1 and 10, they all could have been 1. That's how I really felt.
The Batman is, I think, just years and years of my whole life of things that I like, things that I grew up on, a soft spot for things, and I don't feel like I'm in a minority here to feeling that way. For some reason, Batman speaks to a couple generations, but more importantly, I guess even the passing this year of Kevin Conroy, which I do see as the Batman and kind of meant a lot to me in terms of my childhood. The Batman has always been there, but this movie, I think, is everything that the animated series kind of made me really love it. And then I think that finally to see it put on screen in a way, like, again, I loved Christopher Nolan's films, but I didn't feel like I was there for them as much. But this, right up my alley, and I think this is a movie that I can see myself watching multiple times every year. I just can't get enough of it. I've seen it so many times. I just think Matt Reeves put so much care into something the same way that Christopher Nolan did the first time he tackled this subject matter. He kind of set the bar pretty high, and I think Matt Reeves matched it and in
such a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't copy him at all, and I think that's something. And we've talked about last year. We talked about the original Batman, which we really enjoy as well. So for them all to be so different, but Matt Reeves, it always becomes harder the more you get deep in, to not copy the stuff that's worked. But I think Matt Reeves just did a perfect way of tying in his love to Nirvana and making a Nirvana Batman. I think, I loved it.
So sick that he is one of these great blockbuster filmmakers, and that his 2 franchises are Batman and Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
those are both so fucking cool.
I haven't,
and they're both heavily 60s. Like that's where like the height of their popularity is. Both of those things.
Good point.
I wonder if it's just these are the things he loved in his childhood. Because my dad and many other people's dads and things like that, when they were little kids, that was the shit, was Planet of the Apes and Batman.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've seen one of the Planet of the Apes movies with you here at your house.
I fucking love those.
But
those
I haven't,
underrated.
I haven't really been exposed. Like the character of Caesar, I obviously know because it's been thrown around about how good he is. So I know that much, but I don't know the stories of the movies. And I think seeing the stuff that I have seen from Matt Reeves and his filmmaking style, I think has made me very open to want to go and watch those.
You got to check those out, dude. Those are so good. And those CG apes and those performances and how human they feel because of the mocap suits and stuff like that. Just, oh man, it's so fucking good. That is some sick blockbuster pushing the boundaries filmmaking right there. So if anything, like, I'll use this time to promote, check out those Planet of the Apes movies that Matt Reeves made. And the other thing I was saving was some talk about the Batman sequel. I know a lot of people are hoping that it's
Freeze.
Mr. Freeze, right?
Yeah.
And the joke I saw on Twitter, and I hope it's true, is make Batista Mr. Freeze so we can get him in the little glasses again.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
That would be so good. And I do think an actor like Dave Bautista could really pull that off. So let's manifest that into the universe. We were manifesting Nosferatu stuff last year with Robert Eggers. So going into 2023 and after, Mr. Freeze. Come on, audience. Dave Bautista as Mr. Freeze.
And I still need Robert Eggers as Van Helsing.
Yeah, exactly. Just carry over. You can have, what's his face? Gael Garcia be the he already knows how to be a werewolf. Just come on.
Yeah, you can do it. Yes.
Bring back Hugh Jackman. Let's make it easy.
Let's do it. Yeah.
So that'll bring me to my number 1, which is Nope. Nope is everything I love about cinema, and I'm not being hyperbolic. It's just one of the great films of the year, and I think it will be one of the great films of its time. Jordan Peele is the guy. It's not Big Jim. It's not Denis Villeneuve. It's not, whoever. To me, it's Jordan Peele, because I love the type of movies he makes, and I love the way he tells stories. I think he's one of the most striking image makers that is out right now. To see him, utilize somebody like Hoyte van Hoytema to work as a team and to just create this epic movie about aliens and brothers and sisters, and grief and tragedy, and how we deal with losses and families, along with making one of the most entertaining movies I've seen in a long time. I mean, come on, Kiki Palmer did the Akira slide on a motorcycle. What the hell else do you want in a movie, right? If you don't like that, you don't like movies. And I think that Jordan Peele is just here to stay, and I think he's going to keep getting bigger and keep getting weirder till he either hits the M. Night Shyamalan point, or he does a Spielberg and decides, like, you know what, I need to change because I can't be pinholed into doing these big weird movies. So who fucking knows what the future holds for him? But I hope it's more Hoyte van Hoytema, and I hope it is more of this just weird, interesting stories that only someone like him can pull off. Because a movie like Nope, I can't imagine anybody else making it. It would be too different. It wouldn't be this. He's one of one, and he is, you can't imitate the guy. He's too original.
I will say, just to kind of gloat about it a little more, Stephen Yeun's character of Drew Pearce, something I do thoroughly think about a lot. I think his way to I know he's a complementary or a secondary here to both Daniel Kaluuya and Kiki Palmer, but it's just so much like acting experience just shown off here in his roles. I think I just thoroughly really enjoyed his role in that film. I think he shows trauma in such a different way that I don't think really gets discussed too much. Again, just amazing writing from Jordan Peele. But I also do think the fact that he picked someone like Brandon Perea to be the comedic kind of role in this film. I was
just going to say he stole the show.
Yeah, and kind of also Jordan Peele always being able to grab one person to be like, you guys should appreciate this guy. I'd say maybe in Get Out it would be Rel. I forget his
Lil Rel Howery.
Yeah, somebody who it's like these comedic chops could thoroughly be used in a better way. You guys need to stop pinholing these actors. And I think Brendan Perea might actually end up being something that he gets the bag for, like something like the MCU, because
he's hoping for it. He's out here on Twitter campaigning like, yo, cast me.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's deserved. Like you said, I think he steals the show for somebody who you don't expect, or when you put them in this cast. We've kind of talked about in other movies when I think it was like in The Whale, two of the complimentary actors is just not going to get up to the standards of the other three. But I think here, Brandon Perea really just fits in. And I think that just shows how well a director Jordan Peele is.
I got to go on with the cast a little more here. Michael Wincott as the cinematographer, Antlers Holst, and his character. I felt like upon the rewatch, I realized more that he was very symbolic about what he was no different than the TMZ guy at the end of the day, just in awe of the spectacle and unable to turn away when literally his life depended on it. And it's not that I didn't take that the first time, but I didn't really see the connection at first. I was like, oh shit, he's literally the TMZ guy. He can't turn around. And Brandon Perea, I think he really did steal the show. The interesting thing is that on Peacock, there is a documentary called Shadows, and it's about the creation of Nope. And Brandon Perea was hired. He got the audition. Oh shit, I'm going to audition for a Jordan Peele movie. And he blew him away so much that he rewrote the entire script to add more of this character. So for someone like Jordan Peele to do that,
wow,
for him, I feel like that's just that just goes to show how good he really is, and how he's hopefully someone who's going to be in a lot more stuff in the future, and hopefully star in his own movies. And he has a fan here, and I think he does as well with you, right?
Yeah.
And Daniel Kaluuya, man, what can you say? This would be my sleeper performance for Best Actor. Like, if you were going to give it to, if they said, Gus, go ahead, I'm like, Daniel Kaluuya. Because I think he did so much with so little, and that was a recurring theme that we talked about throughout the whole episode and throughout the year of what we loved with so many of our characters. He's very quiet and subtle, but, he lets the real him out when he's out there doing his thing, taming those horses, and how he monos this fucking entity from who knows where, you know what I mean? And he tames the beast along with his sister. I just think it's such a wonderful story. It takes so much from the things I love about Steven Spielberg's work and so many others. Jordan Peele was not shy in saying that this was what if Jaws met Close Encounters but took place in the sky. And I think he still made something that was based off of things he loved, so original and so different. And like I said, no one else could make this movie, not even Steven Spielberg, when it's so influenced by his own work. Underrated movie. I don't think it got enough love. I think it should be getting the most love. I think it was easily the best film of the year. So that's my opinion on Nope. And I really doubt this is the last time I'll ever talk about this movie.
I think the fact that for me personally with the film that it tackles everything I love about like genres. So it's like it's horror, mystery, sci-fi,
Western.
and western. And I think
And comedy.
yeah, and I think like, this is a weird one to bring up, but wow, I just lost the name of it. But the movie that Kurt Russell was in, where he's a cowboy a couple of years back.
Kurt Russell cowboy movie, Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk, yeah. So the fact that like I love that movie
I never
because
thought I'd hear Nope being compared to Bone Tomahawk.
but because we don't get too many Western horror films, and I think the fact that this also hits a niche little section like that, but also while being such a big movie, I think is what you're talking about. Is Jordan Peele is able to tap into the both worlds that I think is cinema. He taps into the Aftersun and the Batman, and in a way that I think is outstanding to be able to pull off at this level. And the fact that I don't see him being able to make something that isn't good because he can tackle both filmmaking aspects so well, and because I've seen him be so funny throughout my life too. I just think he's a genius, like you said.
Yeah, he really is one of one. So, like I said, I'll save the rest of our lives to talk about this movie more and more. But yeah, man, Nope is it. Nope is my movie of the year. It's one I'll never forget watching. The last thing I wanted to say is you mentioned Stephen Yeun, but I had chills. It took my breath away. It was why I love the movies. The scene where Jupe and his crowd are abducted by the entity.
Yeah.
That to me is everything I love about movies. Right there, embodied in one small scene. Yeah, so Nope, man. Can't get enough of it.
So number one for me is I feel like a feeling in the majority of the camp here. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I think
This was my number one at a point, yes.
Came out of nowhere. A film that we saw trailers for the year prior and just kind of didn't know what to really expect too much. I think Michelle Yeoh is somebody that is a little underappreciated on this side of the world. But I think is somebody who, after various interviews of hearing her, maybe wasn't seen that way because they didn't really think she had that type of acting in her. I think it's marvelous what this film has done for their careers. I think that Stephanie Sue has been kind of a little disrespected in a lot of the award circuit. I think she is a major part of why I like this movie. I think her character is the most resonating part for me. And I will say that I think this film did so much with so little of what it had. I know a lot of people call it the Reddit movie, which interestingly enough, I don't really understand the connection there, but I understand not necessarily thinking it's as great as it is. I think in this connection, it is the same to Avatar. When something becomes the most popular or the most money making or whatever, you have to start judging it, or people start judging it like it is the greatest thing ever made. And that's where obviously it's not. But I do think for me, it's a film that in this era, looking back, or a lot of in my lifetime, I think it is a movie that's going to stand out to me just because it was so emotional for something that, again, kind of taps into what I love about sci-fi, but also the comparisons to something like The Matrix when I was first watching it, and knowing that these films exist because something like The Matrix was forefronting. And I just think this film really culminates that I love where we currently are in cinema, at least with the ideas that independent filmmakers have because of what we've been exposed to as the age that we are. And I think this film is just the perfect culmination of the era. And
yeah, it's a fucking great film. It really is. The haters, suck it.
Yeah.
I hate to be so crude about the whole thing, but honestly, have some fucking fun, man. Like I know you could throw this around for any movie or whatever, and why don't we do this for some and we do it for others? But this was just such a good time at the movies, and every time I saw this movie, the people in there were fucking loving it.
Yeah.
So I don't know where this opinion came from out of nowhere. I'm sure there's always going to be people like this who are detractors. Oh, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Oh, really? Be kind. That's the message you're giving. Yeah. So what? movies like Avatar get blamed on for the same thing. Like, oh, really? We should take care of the earth, or oh, really? Like, so what? Who cares? Like, why are we acting like that's not why these movies hit? Because they have messages that the general public can agree with. Like, as in, yeah, we should probably take care of the earth, and yeah, we probably should be kind to each other. Like, these are supposed to be core values of humanity, not things that need to be put in movies so that you could be told in a way that's digestible to you. You know what I mean? So who cares? Whatever, man. I'm never going to be on that train. Although it didn't end up being one of my favorite, or one of my top 3 or whatever, it doesn't fucking matter, because 10 through or 12 through 1, honestly, all meant the same to me. They were those moments that I had where I just I felt it in my soul. And you know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds from a criticism point of view that's not really valid, but that's how I judge things, honestly, is like, does it make me feel like, do I tingle inside when I watch this? And for me, a lot of these movies, that's what I got. And that's when I really know if something hit for me or not. Like, I could cry in After Sun, but boy, I could cry just as much out of pure love and admiration when fucking the Batmobile revs up and it's shooting fucking blue flames out of its ass. You know what I mean? Like, I feel the same way I do when I watch Nope, as I do when I watch The Fablemans, as I do when I watch Everything Everywhere All at Once or Avatar, as I do that visceral, just amazing filmmaking moment of the Batmobile getting ready to chase the penguin, and just, that's how I like to judge movies. And I felt like I got so much of that this year that I was spoiled. The fact that I even had 20 movies that I liked this much,
Yeah, it was a really outstanding year for filmmaking. I don't know if necessarily in the retrospective stuff, I think that's something that's up for conversation. The older generation doesn't seem to think we're in too great of a filmmaking era, but I do think every year that I've spent so far watching films, I've found a film that I thought was one of the best ones I've seen. So I think that's the beauty of filmmaking. I think that's the beauty of covering so many movies, is that I've really, even the bad ones that we've watched, I can find something in them that I think sticks with me. And I think that's the reason I watch movies. I can't get enough of even sitting here and trying to compare them, just because I think it brings up the conversation. And I think it really is a way to speak of your personality too. So at the end of the day, they do become very personable. And the fact that it could be such a wide spectrum, I think, is something that really just remember to me what I love about art. And that's how I see a lot of these movies. Some of them obviously take a different approach than others, but at the end of the day, none of this stuff needs to be made, but it is being made. And I think it needs to be appreciated, because at the end of the day, I think it's just all reflective of what we are. I think every director is a human. And I think that these are all just that human basically evoking their creativity for us. And I think at the end of the day, that's something that all of us, we always talk about. Not everybody really has the valor to be able to do something like that. And I think at the end of the day, that's why I love movies so much. And
it's the best art form. It's not even up for debate, man.
Yeah.
It really is. It's everything I love about art. And I felt like we had so much good art this year. And I don't care what anybody says. The movies is back. Great art is back. And I hope and pray and wish that 2023 is just as good.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. You never know, because the first couple of months are rough sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean, this month isn't really the greatest. I mean, I don't remember last year in January if there was something also. I mean, the only thing that I'm looking forward to this month is Infinity Pool. But like I said,
Broker's coming out too.
That's true.
To watch. So that's
and
2 movies.
Corsage
already.
too. Yeah.
Oh, and Corsage.
So I guess like that's what I'm saying. The independent circuit and international doesn't stop for American slow months. It never has. So there is always films to pick from. And I think that's something I found out a lot last year, watching so many movies, is that there is always good films coming out. It's just about finding them, or if they're accessible. But sometimes they're not. But there is always older films as well that you probably haven't seen that are really, really good.
Yeah, I think the box office is going to continue to be on the rise. because Megan is out at the time of this recording, $12
It's
million
doing good.
budget, and it's already made $30 million in its first weekend,
Yeah.
and a sequel's been greenlit. So yeah, it sucks that we're gonna get another sequel. I mean, we probably won't do an episode on it because you do not seem very interested in this movie. I'm willing to see it because it looks like, you know, a campy, fun version of Chucky, which is another movie that I think is, you know, fun. But it's nice that we already have January starting off with the movie that people are excited to go see, whether it's for something ridiculous or because of the artistic integrity behind it. But that's what's so good about the movies, is that you can have both. You can have Broker and Megan out at the same time. And even more than like people's music taste, I know people like to say that they listen to lots of different type of music, but how many people really watch the equivalent of Tar and Avatar and like them equally, like as music? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what you would compare them to. Tar would obviously be classical music. I guess Avatar would be the most pop music that exists, right? But how many people
BTS.
do you know? Yeah, how many people do you know listen to BTS and Mahler? It'd be like, not really many. You know, if you hand them the aux chord and they go on shuffle, it's not going to be like Symphony Number 5 and whatever BTS song right after, you
Right.
know? But with movies, you could do a double feature in one day. Like, hey, you want to watch Tar and Avatar because they both end with the word Tar.
Yeah.
You know, and I just think that's so beautiful. So, I mean, I'm exhausted. I think this wraps up the longest episode maybe ever. Who knows? Hey, maybe next year we'll push the boundaries and go for 4 hours, much like Big Jim. You know what I mean? Or Martin Scorsese. I'm like, why not do 4 or 5 hours?
I mean, yeah, this year, just little slight at the top of my head stuff like Dune 2 is this year, right?
Dune 2, I believe, Michael Mann's Ferrari movie, Infinity Pool, Killers of the Flower Moon, and many, many others that I don't have off the top of my head.
We have been promised.
The Adam Sandler, the Adam Driver dinosaur movie, like we talked about. So
We have been promised a lot of good movies this year, and that's not counting any of the stuff that we don't know yet that's really independent. For example, A24 has been showing out that Closer film. I think that looks really good.
Hey, I saw the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer in IMAX 3D, and I was like,
I mean-
I might have to go see it. I'm like, I said what I said. I'd be like, but you know, I might be back on board, baby.
Oh, I seen
yeah.
what is it, the map of where everything is heading. Like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. I can't wait to watch these fools get smacked up by Kang. I can't wait to watch him smack Shang-Chi through multiple dimensions. And
I'm in for that. Like, I've seen who's playing Kang. Like,
so
I'm in.
yeah, I'm very optimistic about the movies right now, and I hope you guys are too. As always, like, subscribe, comment, tell us what your favorite movies are of the year, or of 2022 at least. So that wraps it up for us. Say bye to the people, Alvaro.
All right, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.